Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Shinigami, a double god, younger brother Aizen. Chapter 51, Staring at Lan Yan's Leaving Back. At this moment, in the eyes of the Shinigami, his image suddenly became full. He is no longer simply a genius that has not been seen in the Soul Society for 1,000 years, but also an older brother who, in order to protect his younger brother, defies the captain's power and does not hesitate to graduate early to challenge the captain of the guard. The figure stood up in an instant, comparable to the humble gentleman of Aizen. After all, people like Aizen are too great and too far away, but this kind of elder brother who defends his younger brother and challenges the captain is both full and real. Such as Kyoraku Shunsui, he once had an older brother. What nonsense! I didn't expect that one day, the captain of Gote 13 would become a thief. Hiriko Shinji did a great job. Chunshui, what do you think? Yamamoto Genyanagi Shigekuni also found it a bit tricky. On one side is the well-connected veteran captain, on the other side is the strongest genius of the Spiritual Arts Academy in 200 years, and a gifted younger brother who is rare in a century. Even he can't handle it. Master Shan, let them solve this matter by themselves. Anyway, no matter what happens, the 5th Division will still have a captain. Kyoraku Shunsui, who was deeply moved, spoke first. It seems that the two are not helping each other, but in fact they have already sat on Lan Yan's side. After all, after seeing Lan Yan's strength, he was sure that Lan Yan would have the last laugh. Captain Yixin, you were also there at the time, what do you think of this? Yamamoto Motoya Nagisai Shigekuni nodded noncommittally, and then looked at Shiba Isshin aside. It's true that Captain Hiriko did not behave properly. Lan Yan has repeatedly backed down and tolerated Captain Hiriko again and again. It is impossible for him to fight if he is not forced to retire from the army. If it is said that Kyoraku Shunsui is taking a secret position, then Shiba Yixin is even more straightforward to show his position. In front of the general captain and several guard captains, he directly showed that he couldn't see what Hiriko Shinji did. Where's Captain Unohana? Seeing this, Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni knew what was going on. One is the Shinigami captain who is being cultivated by himself as the next overall captain. One is the head of the branch house of the Shiba family and a substitute teacher for the Lan Yan brothers. The former has only met once, and the latter only took a few classes, and he actually stood directly beside the Lan Yan brothers. One can imagine how popular these two brothers are in the daily life. Captain, I'm just the captain of the medical team. What needs to be considered as medical treatment, rescue and so on? The answer I can give you is to do my best to ensure that this duel will see blood but not corpses. Unohana Yakiryu spoke chilling words in the most gentle tone. Thank you. Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni heard the words, and suddenly made a decision in his heart. As long as there is blood but no corpse, whoever the captain of the 5th Division will ultimately belong to will not harm the strength and interests of Gote 13 itself. What's more, he is quite dissatisfied with Hiriko Shinji's approach. I hadn't managed to get the Lan Yan brothers under my door, but Hiriko Shinji was lucky enough to start playing threats and persecutions. Your Excellency, Captain, I have important matters to attend to, and the medical firm has resigned. Seeing that Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni did not hold any objection to the duel between the captains of the 5th Division, but acquiesced and let the duel go. Shiba set out to leave with one heart. Lan Yan has already left for the 5th Division, and he has not forgotten that he promised to bring 200 Shinigami players to the 5th Division to support them. Otherwise, with regard to Hiriko Shinji's cunning, he might not be so grand as to summon 200 Shinigami members from the 5th Division as witnesses. As expected, the other side, in the 5th Division, Hiriko Shinji is dispatching all the officers and players in the 5th Division's dormitory. Only the vice captain, Surugaki Hiyori, was left alone. Idiot, why are you doing this? Are you afraid that you will lose to a Shinigami who has only practiced for a month? Don't even dare to defeat Lan Yan in front of the members of the 5th team. Surugaki Hiyori frowned, a little bit against Hiriko Shinji's approach. More than half a month ago, she also knew what happened at the Junyang Kendo gym. After all, she was a participant. Afterwards, she also personally went to Spiritual Arts Academy to investigate the daily deeds of the Lan Yan brothers. The results of it, as a younger brother, Aizen is the humble gentleman recognized by the entire Spiritual Arts Academy. Be an older brother. Lan Yan is a good brother who is not afraid of power, and in order to protect his younger brother, he does not hesitate to openly challenge the captain of the court guard. The former is humble and kind, while the latter values love and justice. Look at your own captain. Whether it's the various performances in the Mao Kendo gym, or the captain's battle that has already been agreed upon, he has already acted like a villain before it even started. This gradually disgusted Surugaki Hiyori, who saw everything in his eyes. Fear? No, Hiyori, I just intend to let him fully feel the gap between him and the captain, which cannot be made up by the so-called talent. After Hiriko Shinji finished speaking, he frowned, and then got up from the chair without waiting for Surugaki Hiyori to speak. Let's go, the strongest genius in the millennium is here. It's time to meet him. Otherwise, the other party will say that we don't know what politeness is. Finished. Without looking back, he walked towards the door of the 5th team's team building. Why? Surugaki Hiyori sighed and could only keep up quickly. No way. Who let himself stand as such a captain? When the two raised their feet and stepped through the door of the team building, they saw Lan Yan's figure walking from a distance. Excuse me, I'm a bit busy today, and I didn't prepare a salute and a grand welcome ceremony for you. It's just me and the vice captain, don't you mind? When Hiriko Shinji looked at Lan Yan, the corners of his mouth curved into a half smile. How could be? Lan Yan smiled lightly, then looked around and saw that the huge team building of the 5th team was empty, and suddenly understood what was going on. Captain Hiriko, is this your last resort? What a disappointment. I originally wanted to let you go as decently as possible. He looked at Hiriko Shinji, not angry at all for this small gesture. Student Lan Yan, I don't quite understand what you are talking about. Oh, sorry, I forgot, you are now an official Shinigami. So, as a Shinigami, when talking to Captain Guti, shouldn't pay attention to what is polite. Hiriko Shinji slapped his forehead, as if he just remembered the change of Lan Yan's identity. Captain Hiriko, this is also the last time I will call you captain. After all, you have nothing to do with the 5th division immediately. Seeing that Hiriko Shinji was still showing off his little moves and the identity of the guard captain, Lan Yan smiled lightly, but this smile was very cold. This kind of big talk, come and tell me after you collect 200 Shinigami. Hiriko Shinji sneered. It seems that you really don't want to be decent. Forget it. Since you don't want to be decent, then I will help you to be decent. Lan Yan shook his head and laughed. Dare to show off in front of him, not to mention that he has seen through Hiriko Shinji a long time ago. Even if he has not seen through, there is still a bully king beside him who is making suggestions. All conspiracy methods are so pale and ridiculous. Hiriko Shinji just wanted to retort, but seemed to notice something, and the smile on his face froze instantly. Patta! A burst of footsteps came suddenly. From far to near, from small to large, until rows of Shinigami dressed in deadly costumes appeared from different streets around the 5th team. When the footsteps stopped, the rows of Shinigami stopped, and when they stood behind Lan Yan, there were more than 200 in number. Compared to the more than 600 Shinigami players in front of them. What made Hiriko Shinji's face even more ugly was the 3 leading figures in long-sleeved and short-sleeved haori. 1 woman and 2 men. Captain Unohana, Captain Yixin, Vice Captain Sasaki. What do you mean by that? Hiriko Shinji's face sank like water, and his eyes swept over the 3 leaders one after another. Especially Uno Flower Yakiliu, which made him very ugly. Originally, I thought that I could use first-generation Kenpachi to check and balance Lan Yan, but I never thought that it could check and balance myself instead. I heard that there is a captain's duel here. As the captain of the 4th division, I have an obligation to ensure the safety of Shinigami, right? Captain Hiriko. Who is Maojihua Yachinryu? The unprecedented villain of the Soul Society. If Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni hadn't been suppressed above, she would not be the guardian of the Seraiti Order now, but the destroyer. How could he take Hiriko Shinji's question into consideration? How about you, Vice Captain Sasaki? If you do this, the captain will be unhappy if he finds out. Hiriko Shinji ate a soft nail and didn't dare to refute. He didn't want to try to see if the sword of first-generation Kenpachi was still alive after 1,000 years of absence. The captain sent me here. One sentence from Chojiro Sasaki made Hiriko Shinji feel as if he had to rely on his defense. If I do this now, it won't make the fallen Shiba family fall even more. Captain Hirako. Without waiting for Hirako Shinji to speak, Shiba directly took the words he used to hate himself in the Maokendo gym back then, and ruthlessly retorted. I didn't expect it. It's just that I haven't seen you for half a month. You can actually do this. I take back what I told you earlier. I didn't misjudge Aizen, but misjudged you. Hirako Shinji turned his head to look at Lan Yan, his eyes were both shocked and apprehensive. He knew that all his means had already been seen through by the other party. That's why Unohana Yakiryu, Shiba Isshin, and Chojiro Sasaki each brought 200 Shinigami to Team 5 today. Lan Yan Sosuke, you are a dangerous man. More dangerous than Aizen. Hirako Shinji said word by word. Before, he couldn't see Lan Yan clearly, and he wasn't sure whether Lan Yan was behind the scenes or a good brother who protected his younger brother. But now, it has been determined. This is a man more dangerous than Aizen. Is this what you want to say in the last hours of your tenure as the captain of the former 5th Division? Lan Yan didn't care at all. Hirako Shinji told his danger in front of Unohana Yakiryu and others. Say dangerous. It is said that it is better than the 8,000 streams of Uno no flower. Said he was not a good person. Chojiro Sasaki, 1,000 years ago, was not a good person. After all, he wanted to follow the leader of a killer group wholeheartedly. As for Shiba Isshin, no one can deny the fact that brother Lan Yan is a good person. Don't talk to me like a boastful winner. You are not the captain of the guard. Now, let's just stand on the same starting line as me. Who wins the game is still unknown. Hirako Shinji breathed a sigh of relief, and his originally cloudy face returned to calm in an instant. After all, he is the captain of the court guard, an existence that has lived for hundreds of years. Of course, it is impossible to explode the mentality so easily. Then speak in Zanpakuto. When Lan Yan heard this, a hint of sarcasm flashed in his eyes under the black-framed mirror. It is still unknown who will win the deer. What a pity. At this moment, it is not clear that he and Aizen are just a puppet chosen by him. The only role is to become the captain of the court, the stepping stone for the 5th team of King's Landing, and the future Hollow experiment. As you wish. Hirako Shinji rubbed the blonde hair on his head. At this time, he also knew that he could no longer use the authority of the guard captain to suppress Lan Yan. Only Zanpakuto can be used to persuade the other party. Captain Isshin, thank you for being able to form a barrier to isolate them. Just when the two confronted each other and the battle was about to break out, Unohana Yakien turned his head and said to Shiba with one heart. Good. Shiba nodded wholeheartedly. A Shinigami of the Gote captain class can cause great havoc in Seraiti just by cutting fists and moving ghosts, let alone the ensuing battle. The two are bound to liberate Zanpakuto. Even if it's just Shikai, if left alone, it will be like a natural disaster for the nearby 5th Division team building. 8 refutations to seal the formation. As Shiba bent down with all his heart and put his hands on the ground, a light orange cube barrier suddenly rose from the ground, enveloping Lan Yan and Hirako Shinji. Almost as soon as the barrier formed, Hirako Shinji took the lead. He had already experienced Lan Yan's kendo at the Maokendo Hall, so he didn't give Lan Yan the chance to draw his sword close to him, and liberated Zanpakuto immediately. Fall down, caress. After the liberation language fell, the Zanpakuto in Hirako Shinji's hand changed suddenly. The end of the handle is hollow and circular, and the blade has 5 small circular holes. At the same time, a strange fragrance spread towards in all directions, filling the entire Kido barrier in an instant. Clang! Lan Yan stretched his right hand towards Zanpakuto, only to find that the palm that was originally downward turned upward. Welcome to Upside Down Shikai. Lan Yan Sosuke. Unbelievable, right, but this is my Zanpakuto ability, which reverses up and down, left and right, front and back, the direction of seeing and the direction of being slashed. After Hirako Shinji Shikai, he was not in a hurry to make a move. Instead, he leisurely admired Lan Yan's embarrassing appearance after being affected by the ability of inverse caressing. However, after Lan Yan reached out to hold the knife and found it upside down, he only showed a little surprise and then returned to calm. As if talking to Hirako Shinji. Inverse caress. But that's all. Aren't you going to make a move? Clever choice, but useless. In the upside down world, you are the only one who will be affected, so your exquisite swordsmanship is meaningless in front of my caress. On the contrary, my random strike is nothing to you. It's a nightmare. Seeing this, Hiriko Shinji was not in a hurry, but was like a cat driving a mouse to a corner, ready to play with it wantonly. While constantly attacking Lan Yan's psychology with words, he spun Zanpakuto, pressing harder and harder. Like this, seeing that Aizen was trapped in the ability of inverse caress, he didn't dare to launch any attack easily, and he didn't even dare to draw a sword. Puff! With the sound of sharp blades ripping through his stomach, he already held Zanpakuto in his hand, and came to Lan Yan in a flash. With a random slash, Zanpakuto disemboweled Lan Yan, and a large portion of the blade pierced out from the back spine. The whole process is just like what Hiriko Shinji himself just said. His random stabbing, to Lan Yan who was stroked by Ni, was like a nightmare. Be aware, Blue Yan Sosuke. This is what will happen to you if you overestimate your own strength and despise Captain Guard. Hiriko Shinji leaned slightly and whispered in Lan Yan's ear. However, he thought he had succeeded and was in control of the battle situation, but he didn't notice that the eyes of Unohana Yakiryu, Shiba Isshin and Chojiro Sasaki outside the barrier gradually became strange when they looked at him. There is helplessness. Have fun. There is also banter. Idiot, you don't have a knife. It wasn't until Surugaki Hiyori outside the barrier shouted loudly that Hiriko Shinji was startled. He hurriedly moved away a little bit, and then looked down, only to find that, as Surugaki Hiyori said, the Zanpakuto he plunged into Lan Yan's belly didn't have any blood, only a black mist-like existence, drawn from Lan Yan's body. The abdomen position pierced by Zanpakuto spread out. Is this your Zanpakuto Shikai? I thought it was an amazing ability. So it's just this kind of pediatric existence. Listening to Hiriko Shinji's ridicule, Lan Yan smiled instead of anger, and then reached out to grab the opponent's wrist holding the knife, but seemed to forget that after being hit by the back stroke, he turned upside down, left and right completely upside down. The probing hand grabs straight forward, turning into a backward elbow strike. Don't forget, you are still in my backing ability. For a master of swordsmanship like you, any action in battle, whether it is attacking, defending, or dodging, often does not require brain thinking. The most correct choice can be made only by the instinct of the body. Quote. But it's also true. Because of your strength and excellence, after you are dominated by fondling, the impact will be greater. After all, you have to think about it before you even reach out. You should pull your hand back. Do you want to control your body to reverse the situation while thinking in a life and death battle? You can't do it. There is no such person in this world. Hiriko Shinji was startled, but after seeing Lan Yan's movements completely reversed, he laughed again. He cautiously opened the distance while teasing. It's a pity I didn't have to do that. Because to deal with a Shinigami of your level, all you have to do is a hand-probing movement. Look, like now. Lan Yan smiled lightly, and pulled his hand back, but his right hand turned forward, with 5 fingers spread out, and the palm was facing Hiriko Shinji who was pulling away. Dark water. The palm of his palm seemed to turn into a small black hole, and the incomparably terrifying gravitational force surged out in an instant, not only pulling the surrounding air into a distorted shape, but even the enchantment that the captain of the court like Shiba Yixin had personally laid was wrinkled and bent, or regular posture. Let alone Hiriko Shinji being targeted. What? Hiriko Shinji just felt that he was caught in the sea Uzumaki, and there was no other way but to go with the current. Shunpo distanced himself from the range of gravity. Useless. Cast Hado attack, Bakudo imprison. Too late. The moment you get close, cast white hits. Meaningless. Under this terrifying gravitational shroud and oppression, he even needs to expend a huge amount of reiatsu and strength to move a finger, so how can he use white hits? This moment, the only thing Hiriko Shinji could do was to give up struggling, and let his body fly to Lan Yan under the submerged pull of the monstrous gravity. Still have a chance. In an upside-down world, everything about him will be completely opposite. Even if he is attacking, he will have to think about one side first in his brain and reverse the positive and negative, resulting in a much slower attack than usual. The moment he makes a shot is the time for me to counter. Just as this thought flashed in Hiriko Shinji's mind, his body had already flown in front of Lan Yan and fell into his palm. That is this moment, his face changed in horror, and unprecedented fear and anxiety emerged in his eyes. How is it possible? Where's my caress? Obviously already Shikai. How can I change back to the unliberated state? Is this his Zanpakuto ability? Hiriko Shinji's eyeballs moved down and fixed on his back. After entering Shikai, Nifu, whose image changed drastically, has now returned to the state before liberation. It looks like an unremarkable Zanpakuto. It seems that you finally remembered this, and I know Shikai too. Your eyes like this are very correct. Quote, if you still have a chance to live, you must remember that from now on, when you look at me, you must use this kind of gaze. Lan Yan was condescending, looking down at Hiriko Shinji, who was grabbed by him with one hand, and then backhanded the knife, just like the other party stabbed him with Zanpakuto just now. Puff! With a random knife, it pierced into the abdomen, and with a slight push, Zanpakuto pierced through the body and stabbed out from the back. What did you do to me? Why, my Shikai quits Shikai by itself. Hiriko Shinji's face was pale, with blood oozing from his mouth and abdomen at the same time. He is not Manos Grande, does not have the ability of high-speed regeneration, and has not been rewarded with a set of hollow packages by Aizen. As pure Shinigami, Lan Yan's knife went down, not to mention emptying his blood bar, but it also cleared 70% to 80%. With your wisdom, you shouldn't ask such low-level questions. Or, the answer is too appalling for you, and too difficult to accept. The money is good. So, you don't want to believe that answer that has already appeared in your heart. Lan Yan is condescending, overlooking the battered Hiriko Shinji. As you think, I simply sealed your Zanpakuto Shikai, which is your pride, completely sealed. It's like returning you to 100 years ago when you just got the sealed state. As soon as this word came out, Hiriko Shinji's pupils constricted, and the horror in his eyes became more intense. Not just him. Outside the barrier, Hana Yakiryu, Shiba Isshin, Chojiro Sasaki, etc., and even the more than 600 Shinigami present, all of them, without exception, changed their expressions in horror after hearing Lan Yan's words. Zanpakuto pull out. What is that? Shinigami is the most fundamental and most powerful force. But what about Lan Yan? Completely sealed a captain-level Shinigami's Zanpakuto Shikai with one hand. This is how appalling. Impossible. You should save this kind of words to deceive the 3-year-old kid. Lan Yan. Fall down, Nishi. Hiriko Shinji, as if in disbelief, shouted the liberation language again, and Zanpakuto's real name. No respond. Everything is as Lan Yan said. His caress is like returning to the sealed state 100 years ago. No matter how you shout your real name, how you shout your liberation language, the Zanpakuto in your hand will not change at all. Have you finished shouting? Lan Yan watched Hiriko Shinji shouting quietly, his eyes calm. Puff. Without waiting for the other party to reply, he moved the hand holding the knife forward, and Zanpakuto Chigen sank into it, and Hiriko Shinji, who had already been pierced through his body, felt a heart-piercing pain again. Sorry, I forgot. Your caress has been sealed, and the upside-down world has disappeared, and it is no longer completely upside down and left-right. If my hand is sent forward, it is a straight thrust, not a retreat. Lan Yan apologized again, but his tone was insincere. Hiriko Shinji endured the severe pain, opened his mouth and sprayed out a stream of blood foam, and flew towards Lan Yan's face, but before he got close, he was completely absorbed by the gravitational force released by the black mist that curled up. Be gentle, don't vomit blood everywhere. Anyway, you are also a Shinigami who was the captain of the guard. Hiriko Shinji. Lan Yan pulled back the hand holding the knife, and Zanpakuto was pulled out from Hiriko Shinji's body immediately, bringing out puddles of blood again and splashing on the ground. Boom! Hiriko Shinji clutched the wound, his body swayed from side to side, staggered a few steps, then his knees softened, and he knelt on the ground. He could only rely on his back Zanpakuto as a crutch, so he didn't prostrate on the ground. I'll only say it once. You obediently put away the sword and you'll be fine. Stop having any unrealistic fantasies, it's over, just like your captaincy, it's over, Hiriko Shinji. Lan Yan shook Zanpakuto lightly, flying out the blood of the captain of the court guard, and then inserted it back into the scabbard with his backhand. What did you say? I'm the captain of the 5th Division. It's 100 years too early for you to take Laozi's place. Hiriko Shinji was furious when he heard this. Even, he once forgot the strength gap between the two sides, and also forgot the terrifying fact that his Zanpakuto CEC had just been sealed by the probe. His body, which was so badly injured that he had to rely on Zanpakuto as a crutch to kneel down, burst out with a powerful force. He got up from the ground, lifted Zanpakuto, his whole body soared, and the corners of his mouth squirmed slightly. It seems that you really don't understand human language. Seeing this, Lan Yan's eyes gradually turned cold. Bankai. Just when Hiriko Shinji was desperate to use Bankai to fight, Lan Yan stretched out his hand and grabbed it. He only felt a terrifying gravitational force coming from the palm of his hand, causing him to release his 5 fingers in an instant, and Zanpakuto flew out of his hand. He wanted to reach out to grab it back, but he couldn't resist this gravitational force at all, so he could only watch Zanpakuto get farther and farther away from him, farther and farther. Snapped. The moment Zanpakuto fell into Lan Yan's palm, Hiriko Shinji's heart sank to the bottom. The familiar feeling that haunted my body and mind just now reappeared. Nifu, who was connected to him spiritually, lost his voice again, and did not give the slightest response. That is, as a captain-level Shinigami, his strongest power, Bankai, failed. Nursing. This kind of thing is just gravel in front of my candle shadow. Of course, you too, Hiriko Shinji. Lan Yan played with the backstroke in his hand, then shook his head. The evil 8 treasure plug. Hiriko Shinji shouted a few times, almost roaring, calling out Zanpakuto's Bankai name, but Zanpakuto that fell into Lan Yan's hands was like a stone sinking into the ocean, without giving him the slightest response at all. Be quiet, don't do that, don't yell like that, Hiriko Shinji. You obviously already know that it doesn't make any sense to do so. Lan Yan raised his hand and gave it away lightly, and Zanpakuto flew out immediately. Hiriko Shinji's pupils dilated and he lowered his head with some difficulty. A familiar Zanpakuto pierced his chest, and the blade protruded from his back. This knife, like the straw that broke the camel's back. The Reiatsu that filled him quickly fell silent. Hearing the sound of click, Hiriko Shinji seemed to have been sucked out of all energy, his body fell backwards, and he sat slumped on the ground. If it is said that the body was destroyed by these 2 knives to the point of losing its fighting strength, then the caress did not respond at all, and Zanpakuto was captured, unable to Bankai. This series of successive brutal blows completely disintegrated his will. He didn't struggle anymore, didn't resist anymore, just sat there like this, letting the wounds on his chest and abdomen spurt out blood continuously, dyeing the long-sleeved haori that symbolized the guard captain red, and dyed the floor into a pool of blood. This moment, Hiriko Shinji seems to be completely serious about the status quo, as Lan Yan said, no longer have any unrealistic illusions. The disparity in strength made him realize that no matter what he did, it was meaningless. The gap between Shinigami and Shinigami. The gap between Zanpakuto and Zanpakuto. The dimension between the two is constantly opened, forming a gap called a natural moat. How can this be? Captain Hiriko, but the qualifications are second only to Captain Yamamoto, Captain Unohana, Captain Chunshui, Captain Jashiro, Captain Kuchiki, and Captain Shutara, Captain Gote. How come when you fight Lan Yan, it's like the captain beat the team members? There is no counterattack power at all. Even Bankai can't be used. Lan Yan took Hiriko Shinji down with just 1 shot. Is the gap between them really that big? Outside the barrier, the 600 Shinigami players who came to watch the battle looked at each other in shock. Guard captain. That is already the existence standing at the apex of Seraiti. Even if Bankai is not used, it is a humanoid self-propelled natural disaster. Not to mention that Hiriko Shinji is not the kind of newly promoted captain, but has served as the captain of the court 100 years ago, and has mastered the Shinigami of Bankai 100 years ago. But the result, in front of Lan Yan, such a powerful and experienced captain of the 5th division is really as insignificant as a grain of sand. With a flick of his sleeves, the grit was wiped away. Is this the end? Shiba Yixin, who was in charge of maintaining the ending, was also moved. Among the many Shinigami, he is considered to be the Shinigami who knows Lan Yan's strength best except for Unohana Yakiryu. But why did he not expect that the battle would unfold in such a completely crushing way, and then end the battle? It's not like a captain-level Shinigami battle at all, it's more like a battle between a captain and an ordinary player. I can't even use Bankai. It's no wonder that His Excellency, the chief captain, attaches so much importance to him, and often regrets that he missed the relationship between master and apprentice due to temporary worries. Let a guard captain not even have the chance to use Bankai, what kind of strength this is. Chojiro Sasaki looked at Hiriko Shinji, who was prostrate in a pool of blood, and then looked at the chatting and laughing, and crushed a guard captain to Lan Yan, who had no power to fight back. He knew that this was Shinigami versus Zanpakuto's two-sided crush. As a Shinigami, Hiriko Shinji is inferior to Lan Yan. As Zanpakuto, Nifu is not as good as Candle Yin. This created a situation in which one side absolutely crushed the other in this duel. When I was at Spiritual Arts Academy, I read it right. Very strong. His Zanpakuto is stronger than anyone else, and that's not even his Zanpakuto full glory. Hana Yakiryu stared deeply at the Zanpakuto on Lan Yan's waist. As first-generation Kenpachi, her knowledge, experience, and vision are certainly not comparable to ordinary Shinigami. Same with Yamamoto Genyanagi Shigekuni. As early as the first time she witnessed Lan Yan Shikai, displaying the power of Candle Yin, she noticed the extraordinariness of this Zanpakuto. Your Zanpakuto is very happy that you used him to crush a guard captain, making Hiriko Shinji unable to even use Bankai, fully demonstrating his strength, so she decided to tell you that she during Bankai training, let Shikai's abilities grow and evolve, and he has mastered the ultimate form of the shining candle. I am the only one in the sky and the world. After defeating Hiriko Shinji with a crushing attitude, Lan Yan gained not only the awe and praise from the Shinigami outside the barrier, but also a big gift package from his own Zanpakuto Candle Yin. The ultimate pattern of the flashing candlestick. Although it is the ability of Shikai, it is more powerful than most Bankai of Zanpakuto. After understanding Zuin's newly cultivated ability called Heaven and Earth, I am the only one, Lan Yan was also quite surprised. It is worthy of the Shikai ability called the ultimate form by his own Zanpakuto. With just this move, there is no need to use any other abilities of Zonquan Zugi, or even Zuin's other abilities, and he can look down upon Sarai T. Blue Yan. Just when Lan Yan was immersed in the joy brought by Candle Yin's newly cultivated ability, Hiriko Shinji's voice came from behind. Is there anything else, Captain Hiriko? Oh, forgot, you are only a member of the 5th Division now, and you are no longer the captain of the 5th Division. So, please don't call me by my first name. Lan Yan turned his head slightly, glanced out of the corner of his eye at Hiriko Shinji, who was lying prostrate in a pool of blood, struggling to even sit up. Stop pretending there. I love you. If you don't kill me today, I will definitely kill you in the future. Hiriko Shinji parted the corners of his mouth and showed a piercing smile. It doesn't matter. Faced with Hiriko Shinji's aggressive and threatening, Lan Yan burst out laughing. It seems to be amused by this behavior. What did you say? Hiriko Shinji thought about Lan Yan's reaction. Such as turning around and making a move, such as holding back and not saying anything, but I never thought that the man in front of me would not care about my words. He could see that Lan Yan wasn't forbearing or pretending, but really didn't care about his next actions. Hiriko Shinji, I never saw you as an opponent. You are the captain of the court guard. No, you have become a dog of the defeated army, even more so. From now on, I don't care whether you see me shy away or bark like a defeated dog, because you are not qualified. After Lan Yan finished speaking, he ignored Hiriko Shinji, who was sometimes sluggish and sometimes frightened, and walked out of the barrier that Shiba had set up with all his heart. The barrier laid down by the captain of the court guard is strong enough to withstand a duel from a captain-level powerhouse, but when he wants to leave, it is like passing through the air, completely ignoring the barrier of the cube. I thought you wouldn't be able to hold back and go back and kill Hiriko Shinji. Fortunately, you are not impulsive. Otherwise you will fall into his trick. Seeing that Lan Yan did not kill him in the end, Shiba thought that the other party had listened to his persuasion, so he gave up, and he was very happy. Lan Yan can listen to his words, which proves that he still approves of the substitute teacher who has taught him a few classes. At least, I have regarded him as a teacher in my heart. Anyway, he is also the former captain of the court guard. It's a waste to kill him. What's more, he wanted to die by my knife 100 years earlier. Lan Yan shook his head. Killed Hiriko Shinji? How can it be? What a waste that is. This is the captain of the former 5th team. Looking at the entire Serai, there are not a few advanced experimental materials that can be found. Just killed Hiriko Shinji with one knife, where did he get another guard captain to experiment with Aizen? Yes, over the past month, Lan Yan not only watched his Zanpakuto, Reiatsu, and Zanquan grow rapidly, but also saw the growth of his younger brother. Zanpakuto has already comprehended Bankai, but it will take a while to fully master it. Reiatsu has as many as 12 chariots. 0. In the case of Kido, Hado and Bakudo below the number 80 can give up chanting, and the power is not inferior to full chanting. Kendo, as a common ability to match with Kyoka Suigetsu, is also not bad. It has already been self-study and witnessed the battle between him and Unoka Yakiryu, and it has become a genre of its own. As for white hits, although they are rarely used, they are only stronger than Yoruichi, who is the best in white hits in the first class. The last is Shunpo. Similarly, it seems that Shihuin Yoruichi is the fastest in the class, but in fact Aizen is second only to him in speed. The overall strength, although he can still hang with one hand, but it is undeniable that the king is strong. It is the figure that has been chasing him closely, and he has not completely fallen behind. The growth of strength has also led to Aizen's various actions becoming more active. As early as 3 days ago, Kyoka Suigetsu's ability had been used to freely enter and exit all libraries, databases, research institutes, and even the Technology Development Bureau in Serai except the Great Spirit Book Corridor. With the collected data and my own insights, I am already preparing for the Shinigami Hollow experiment. Lan Yan, who has a panoramic view of everything, is of course reluctant to kill experimental materials like Hiriko Shinji. After all, if your own Zanpakuto, or Reiatsu, will not break through the boundaries of Shinigami, or comprehend Hollow or something, then it is still necessary to fiddle with Hogyoku, and there are two. To do all of this, the contribution of captain material like Hiriko Shinji is needed. You, forget it, who let Hiriko Shinji mess around. I won't get involved with the two of you. Seeing Lan Yan's words with all his heart, Shiba didn't pay attention to Hiriko Shinji at all, and wanted to say something, but in the end he didn't know what to say. After all, he saw the conflict between the two. Hiriko Shinji did it himself from beginning to end. If it were him, facing a person who repeatedly targeted his younger brother for no reason, let alone giving him a good face, it would be good if he didn't draw his sword and kill Hiriko Shinji like Lan Yan. I know what to say about Hiriko. But as his vice captain, I am very grateful that you kept your hand on Hiriko again and again, and didn't care about his repeated offenses to you and your younger brother. Thank you so much for saving Hiriko's life, Captain Lan Yan. At this time, Surugaki Hiyori came over. Her reaction was a bit unexpected. 153. As the vice captain of the 5th Division, she witnessed Hiriko Shinji being beheaded and crying in a pool of blood. Instead of pointing at Lan Yan, she turned around and bowed to apologize. It's okay, I said, I won't care. Go see him. Although I kept my hand and was treated by Captain Unakana, but this month, Hiriko Shinji will not even think about getting out of bed and putting on his shoes. Lan Yan looked at the respectful Surugaki Hiyori, and the eyes under the frame mirror couldn't help flashing a hint of imperceptible playfulness. He sort of understands why his younger brother, who is a king, likes to play with his subordinates and enemies. Obviously, he had just beheaded Hiriko Shinji, and also took the captain of the opponent's 5th team, but as Hiriko Shinji's vice-captain, Surugaki Hiyori actually thanked him in turn. Have to say, this feeling is really cool. No wonder Aizen captured Hinamori Momo and Hitsugaya Toshiro as a trick to keep them alive, but still alive. A good one who wants to force the king. One wished to kill the king. On behalf of Hiriko, I thanked Captain Lan Yan for his mercy. As soon as Surugaki Hiyori said this, Hiriko Shinji, who was being rescued not far away, just heard it, and was so angry that he vomited blood for 3 times. I don't know whether it was the serious injury or the reason of being angry, so I passed out on the spot. Hana Yakiryu, who was doing rescue work, vaguely heard a sentence. Hiyori mistaken me. Spiritual Arts Academy. A petite figure, like a flying bee, quickly passed through the campus trails and buildings. Every time the figure flickers, the person will move forward more than 50 meters, just like teleporting. From the gate to the first class, it only took her a minute to arrive, and then she landed silently, half kneeling in the class, in front of Shihoin Yoruichi, who had been waiting for a long time. Master Yoruichi. Sui Feng knelt down on one knee, and every word and deed revealed deep respect and admiration. As a member of the lower-level noble Feng family, she takes protecting the Saifeng family as her own responsibility and worships Shihoin Yoruichi crazily. Shihoin Yoruichi is like a heavenly existence. Sui Feng, what was the result of the duel? Shihoin Yoruichi also didn't treat Sui Feng as a servant, but as a playmate. Seeing her coming, he immediately reached out to help her up. The rest of the class looked over one after another. Even the Tsunere Byakuya Kuchiki didn't look at her, but her ears were pricked up. After all, this is a rare captain-level duel in Seraiti. It is hard for Lan Yan to say about the ownership of the captain of the 5th team, but Hirako Shinji will definitely go all out, unless he wants to give up the position of captain of the Gotei team. Captain battles are rare. Not to mention, a student who just graduated is going to challenge an experienced captain of the Imperial Court. Not to mention being in the first class, even looking at the entire Spiritual Arts Academy, and even Seraiti are things that attract a lot of attention. Lan Yan won. Seeing that Shihoin Yoruichi was full of Lan Yan, Sui Feng felt a little sour in his heart, but he still reported honestly. I knew it. He's going to win. Graduation as the captain. In the more than 2,000-year history of Spiritual Arts Academy, this has never happened before. Blue Yan Sosuke, this name is destined to be recorded in the history of Soul Society. Hearing Sui Feng's words, Komamura Sajin, Urahara Kazuki and others suddenly exclaimed. Among them, although many people think that Lan Yan will definitely win, after all, in the kendo gym before, Hirako Shinji was overwhelmed by the way of the sword, and in the end, he cut people like a painting. Shinji is nailed to the wall, but it's just a kendo fight after all. Neither side used Zanpakudo's Bankai, nor even Shikai. More or less, there is still a bit of suspense. So, they still couldn't help being surprised when they learned that Lan Yan had won. After all, that is the captain of the court guard. In contrast, Lan Yan is a Shinigami rookie who has only been practicing for a month. How did you win? Tell me the process. Sui Feng. After Shihoin Yoruichi cheered, he immediately asked Sui Feng to inform him of the battle process. This moment, everyone is engrossed, wanting to hear Lan Yan's fight with Hirako Shinji. Lan Yan used Zanpakudo's Shikai to defeat Hirako Shinji with just one hit. There is no equal power, only unilateral crushing. Oh, by the way, Hirako Shinji wanted to use Bankai to fight to the death, but in the end, he didn't even have a chance to use Bankai, and Lan Yan directly took Zanpakudo. Sui Feng said truthfully, no embellishment, no out of context. With only Shikai, did you defeat Captain Gotei? Let Hirako Shinji not even use Bankai. What kind of strength is this? It only takes one blow to defeat the captain of the 5th team. It's only been a month, it's too scary. It seems that after we graduate, when we meet Lan Yan, we will call him Captain Lan Yan. After hearing this, everyone was even more shocked by the strength displayed by Lan Yan. This can no longer be described as genius. After all, the students of the same first-class class were enrolled in the Spiritual Arts Academy together, and he and others were still in class, but Lan Yan had already killed Hirako Shinji and was about to become the captain of the 5th team. Students and captains. This is not just a gap in strength, but also a gap in identity, status, power and glory. Blue Yan Sosuke. Has his strength reached this point? It only takes one move to defeat the leader of the guarding team. Byakuya Kuchiki's pupils constricted, his hands clenched violently, and his heart was like a tsunami, bursting with stormy waves. Since defeating Lan Yan, not only did he not carry anything with him in terms of cultivation, but he was brave after knowing his shame, and worked hard to improve himself. Seeing Kuchiki Yinling, she revealed the background of Kuchiki's family, and quietly gave him the fragments of the Spirit King collected over the years. Although he couldn't fully absorb it, in this process, his cultivation progress can be said to be rapid, and each day is better than one day. The rapid growth of strength also allowed Byakuya Kuchiki to see the dawn of surpassing Lan Yan. Until this moment, he just found out. The so-called dawn beyond Lan Yan in my eyes is just an illusion, a fantasy, not even a mirage. Byakuya Kuchiki was shocked. Urahara Kazuki was also shocked. Everyone was stunned by Lan Yan's strength. Only Aizen, he is the only one in the class. After learning the process and result of the duel between Lan Yan and Hiriko Shinji from Sui Feng, he was not surprised at all. Come down this month. Just like Lan Yan had a panoramic view of his growth, he also witnessed the growth of Lan Yan's strength. According to Lan Yan's cultivation process, it only takes 1 year for his Zanpakudo, Reiatsu, Kendo, Kido, Shunpo, and White Hits to reach the limit of Shinigami, which is difficult to improve. No, probably not for a year. It seems that my pace is going to speed up, and the feeling of stagnation is not good. Aizen thought to himself and decided that he would apply for graduation in 10.5 months. After all, since he chose to show his talents instead of hiding his strengths and bide his time, staying in the Spiritual Arts Academy will only slow down his pace. Whether it's Shinigami's Hollow, or reaching the top, getting to Gote 13 is a crucial step. Correct, almost forgot, there are also 4 great nobles. 24. A team office. Yamamoto Genryusai, Jashiro Yukitaki, and Kyoraku Shunsui sat facing each other. After witnessing Lan Yan's graduation assessment, they did not go to the 5th team, but returned to the team building of the 1st team, waiting for news. Just because, before the duel started, they had already anticipated the result in advance. However, the result was expected, but when the members of the 1st team of Special Forces brought the whole process of the duel back to the 1st team, they still couldn't help being horrified. Has it reached such heights? In the past, even those Shinigami who were dubbed geniuses, even if it took hundreds of years, or even hundreds of years, they might not be able to reach the heights. It only took him a month. Jashiro Yukitaki exclaimed. In the long years of Soul Society Shinigami's existence, there are so many talented Shinigami. Just say among the 3 present here, which one is not a genius? For example, he himself is equivalent to the existence of the arm of the Spirit King. Although limited by his ability and his sick body, he cannot exert much power, but it is undeniable that he is a genius himself, and he has the extremely rare pair Zanpakudo of Soul Society. But compared with Lan Yan, I only feel ashamed. Chunshui, what do you think? Yamamoto Genryusai saw that Kyoraku Shunsui was just drinking tea and didn't say a word the whole time, so he asked. He was not only asking about Lan Yan's opinion, but also about the aftermath. After all, Hiriko Shinji lost, and it was under the watchful eyes of everyone, especially since he himself sent 200 Shinigami players to serve as spectators, so the captain of the 5th team must be handed over. It's just that Gote 13 is right, but there are not only Gote 13 in Lingting. And nobility, Shinigami, who was staring at the captain's position, was full of people. As the first chief captain, and the maker and maintainer of the Seraiti rules, Yamamoto Genryusai can of course make his own decisions, but Kyoraku Shunsui cannot. Lan Yan, thinking about it, even I may not necessarily be his opponent. Kyoraku Shunsui understood that Yamamoto Genryusai was not only cultivating him, but also testing him, so he pretended to ponder, but actually gave an answer that he knew well. Okay, deal. Prepare for the captain's inauguration ceremony. Quote. At the same time, it is announced that Hiriko Shinji will be dismissed as the captain of the 5th Division, and Surugaki Hiyori will be removed as the vice captain of the 5th Division. After the ceremony, make a decision. It seemed that the answer was irrelevant, but Yamamoto Genryusai's eyes flashed an imperceptible gratification after hearing it. Lan Yan is the captain of the 5th Division, and the nobles who have a peek at the position of the captain of the guard can go to him to wrestle with him. The nobles won, and he and Chun Shui came out to cover Lan Yan's bottom line, helping Lan Yan. The nobleman fell, and he and Chun Shui came out to clean up the mess and make the icing on the cake. No matter what the result is, Lan Yan will only increase the sense of belonging to Gote 13, and will not have a sense of resistance. Same. In the future, Kyoraku Shunsui will be the captain, and even if Lan Yan does not fully support him, he will not sing the opposite. Obviously, graduation as the captain, a display of strength. Let Yamamoto Genryusai's perspective on everything related to Lan Yan has changed. At first, condescending. Now, be respectful. Lan Yan and Hiriko Shinji had a decisive battle between the captains of the 5th squad at the front gate of the team building. Such a big event could not be concealed. In addition, Yamamoto Genryusai immediately made a decision to issue a notice to the entire Seraiti. After learning about this, no matter whether it was the other guard captains or the Shinigami nobles, they were shocked by the successive news without exception. In 1 month of enrollment, I graduated from the first class ahead of schedule. On the day of graduation, he went to the 5th team alone with one knife, and defeated Hirako Shinji under the witness of hundreds of Shinigami players and 2 captains. Graduation as the captain. He directly skipped the ordinary players, the chief executive, and the vice captain, and became the captain of the 5th team. Such an astonishing talent, such an unbelievable rate of promotion. As the news spread, it immediately caused an uproar in the entire Serai. Pata, 6th Division Team Building. A chess piece flew out of Kuchiki Hibiki's hand, hit the chessboard first, and then fell to the ground. Shang, your heart is disturbed. Cooperating with him, Kuchiki Yinling, who was playing chess, glanced at Kuchiki Shang, and said indifferently. His performance was extremely calm, as if he was not at all moved by the news that Lan Yan graduated as captain. I'm sorry, Lord Yinling, I'm being rude. Kuchiki Shang immediately reacted, first apologized in a low voice, and then leaned over to pick up the chess piece. Although the relationship between the two is son-in-law and father-in-law, Shinigami nobles have strict family rules. As the head of the 4 nobles, known as the model of all Shinigami in the Serai, it is natural that countless eyes are watching every move. This also caused him, as the door-to-door son-in-law, to abide by the rules in every word and deed. The etiquette of the Kuchiki family cannot be lost. Is it because Lanyan Sosuke became the captain of the guard before you, and is above you, do you find it unacceptable? Kuchiki Yinling's eyes are like a torch, and she knows everything about Kuchiki Shang, who was born in Rukongai and lacks ambition and city government. He was extremely satisfied with his son-in-law, Kuchiki Kayokawa, in terms of strength and talent, and even Zanpakuto. I got part of the Spirit King's fragments and can use them perfectly to become my own power. Zanpakuto is also a villager who can be called the natural enemy of Shinigami. Just like this, he did not hesitate to turn against Tsunayashiro Tokunada, but also wanted to keep Kuchiki Yinling, and put down his arrogance to recruit him as the married son-in-law of Kuchiki's family. As long as you hold the Kuchiki Hibiki card, any nobleman in the Soul Society, any Shinigami who wants to harm the Kuchiki family must first weigh whether they will be killed by their own Zanpakuto in the middle of the night. However, the moon waxes and wanes, and Kuchiki Hibiki has the usual Shinigami difficulty and Zanpakuto with powerful Shinigami power, but there is also a drawback. That is the lack of will to control Muramasa and this Shinigami power. No, Master Yinling. Kuchiki Shang saw that Kuchiki's silver bell had revealed his thoughts with one mouthful, and quickly denied it, but the unwillingness flickering in his eyes from time to time revealed his true thoughts. You are the son-in-law of the Kuchiki family. Participated in the Haweko Mundo expedition to quell the Shinigami rebellion. As a result, so far, it is still only a 3rd seat in the 6th team, not even the vice-captain, so you are not reconciled, are you? Kuchiki Yinling said word by word. Yes, Master Yinling. As you said, I bled for Serai and I did merit for Gote 13. But what about Lanyan Sosuke? It's just a Shinigami who just graduated from Spiritual Arts Academy. He has neither credit nor qualifications. How can he be the captain of the court and lead the entire 5th team? Kuchiki Shang still wanted to quibble, but after meeting Kuchiki Yinling's increasingly fierce eyes, he immediately changed his words. Is it because he defeated Captain Guard in the duel? If that's the case, I can always do it, and do it better than him, with my Zanpakuto. Muramasa. Master Silver Bell. Kuchiki Hibiki became more and more excited as he talked. Although he was given the surname of Kuchiki, and he also wears the star-leading pliers and red floral yarn that only the nobles are qualified to possess, but it cannot change the fact that he is the son-in-law of the Kuchiki family. For this reason, he never gave up any chance to prove himself. Just to tell the Kuchiki Silver Bell, tell the Kuchiki family, and even everyone in Serai, he. Kuchiki rings the river, worthy of the Kuchiki family. Become the captain of the guard. In terms of position, he is equal to Kuchiki Yinling, the captain of the 6th division. This is the best way. However, although Kuchiki Shang knew the 3 ways to become the captain of the court early on, they were clearly arranged by Kuchiki Yinling. Start low, from the team members, to the chief executive, to the deputy captain, and finally to the captain of the court step by step. The reason is that the Kuchiki family is the head of the nobility and a model of nobility. They should behave in a dignified and righteous way. It is okay to want to become the captain of the guard, but it is absolutely impossible to challenge the captain. You can only be elected by the captains to serve as the captain of the guard. Otherwise, the world will say that the Kuchiki family is a Seraiti who uses power for personal gain and bullies others. This also led to the fact that 50 years later, Kuchiki Kawasora has the strength of the captain, and can only hold 3 seats in the 6th team. Confused, Kuchiki Yinling saw that there was such a difference between Kuchiki's ringing and Zenji. Just because Lan Yan was the captain of the court guard before him, he lost his composure, and he couldn't help but let him down. Master Silver Bell, Kuchiki Hibiki was stunned. Since he joined Kuchiki's house, it was the first time he was scolded so harshly by Kuchiki Yinling. Does your vision only see such a short and shallow landscape? Do you really think that as long as you defeat Captain Guarding, you can replace him and become the new captain? Do you really think that Lan Yan Sosuke was appointed as the captain of the 5th squad simply by defeating Hiriko Shinji in the captain's duel? Kuchiki Yinling was even more disappointed when she saw that her son-in-law, who made her very satisfied in the past, behaved so badly at this moment, and she still couldn't understand the twists and turns in it. Helpless, the son-in-law was chosen by himself, and the strength of Kuchiki Shang and the ability of Zanpakuto Muramasa are too strong. Of course, he can't give up on Kuchiki because of this shortcoming. Isn't that the loss of a daughter? Is not it? Kuchiki Hibiki asked subconsciously. Madness. Let me ask you, who was there when Lan Yan Sosuke applied for early graduation and was taking the assessment? When Kuchiki heard the silver bell, he shouted loudly, but seeing Kuchiki's ringing river, he still couldn't see clearly, so he could only speak to remind him. Captain Jashiro, the leader of the Beijing band. Captain Unohana, Your Excellency Captain. Kuchiki Hibiki spoke the names of the guard captains one after another. At this time, his speech speed slowed down, and his tone became less anxious and unhappy, as if he had noticed something. There is still one. Shiba with one heart. You don't think that a graduation examination requires the captain of the 10th squad to be the examiner? Kuchiki Yinling added a name. Kuchiki Yinling didn't speak, but his eyes flickered, as if he was thinking about something. It seems you understand. Gote 13, a total of 13 captains, a student's graduation assessment. There are actually 5 most experienced guard captains who came to the scene to observe the ceremony. Who is Lan Yan Sosuke? Like you, he was born in Rukongai, but when you graduated, you were already the son-in-law of my Kuchiki family. Apart from the old man and Captain Jashiro, were there any other captains present? Was there a general captain in person? When Kuchiki Yinling saw that Kuchiki Shang realized something, a gleam of relief immediately flashed in his eyes. No, the jealousy and resentment on Kuchiki Hibiki's face gradually disappeared, replaced by solemnity. I don't want to know, but I'm startled when I think about it. The 13th Guardian Captain. A total of 5 people came to watch the ceremony in person, and each had higher qualifications, each had greater background, and each had more authority than the other. Is this a Rukongai student graduation? Even if the new patriarchs of the 4 great nobles take office, they may not be able to make it in time. To Lan Yan, Your Excellency, Captain, has long wanted to accept disciples. Captain Ujiwa favors him, Captain Yixin regards him as his own. And Captain Jashiro and the leader of the band Kyo. Kuchiki Yinling General Lan Yan was able to serve as the captain of the 5th team so smoothly, and everything behind it is explained in detail. The rest of the court captains, not counting Captain Shutara and the old man of the 12th division, are all friends with Hiriko Shinji. All the captains under him are willing to stand for him, and this also includes His Excellency, the captain of the Soul Society, who symbolizes absolute authority. To achieve this level, strength is fundamental and indispensable, but will, means, and strategy are all indispensable. This is what you see as having no credit or qualifications, just defeating Hiriko Shinji. A man who simply became the captain of the court guard. Shang, the old man will ask you, have you ever thought that if you follow the example of Lan Yan Sosuke, Qian Lihao defeats Hiriko Shinji, the captain of the guard who fought against him opposes you, and Yuan Luzai, Uji the 5 captains, Hana, Jashiro, Jingle, and Shiba, also disagree, so what about you? After hearing Kuchiki Yinling's in-depth analysis, Kuchiki Shang realized the horror of Lan Yan and the seriousness of the matter. With Muramasa in his hand, he claims to imitate Lan Yan and defeat Hiriko Shinji easily, but is it possible to win the support of a total of 5 captains, including Yamamoto Moto Ryusai Shigekuni? No matter how proud and conceited he was, he didn't think he could do it. Master Yinling, Lan Yan Sosuke is only a student who enrolled in Spiritual Arts Academy for 1 month, how can he do this? Kuchiki Shang calmed down. The more he thought about it, the more puzzled he became. From Lan Yan's admission to Spiritual Arts Academy to his graduation, it's been a month with all his budget. In such a short period of time, it is shocking to be able to defeat Hiriko Shinji, and there is still spare time to win over 5 captains of the court, which is simply unbelievable. Because you ignored someone, a name that is almost completely overshadowed by Lan Yan Sosuke's dazzling brilliance. Kuchiki Yinling stared at Kuchiki Ring River with burning eyes. Aizen Sosuke. Kuchiki Shang pondered for a moment, a name suddenly popped up in his mind, and he blurted it out immediately. That's right, because Lan Yan is so brilliant that people ignore his younger brother, Aizen is a once-in-a-century Shinigami genius. Even compared to Shang He, you are even worse. Facts have also proved that Aizen is indeed a genius. In the first-class class, and even in the entire Spiritual Arts Academy, his grades are second only to Lan Yan, but his popularity is the first. The most important thing is his behavior. Shang, if you look at the history of the Soul Society, have you ever seen any Shinigami who dared to publicize the ability of Zanpakuto like him, paving the way for thousands of Shinigami? When Kuchiki Yinling said this, an imperceptible look of regret flashed in the depths of her eyes. At the beginning, I shouldn't be obsessed with ghosts. I listened to Tsunayashiro Tokunada's words and asked Byakuya Kuchiki to test Lan Yan. Although he prided himself on doing things cleanly and without leaving any traces, no matter how hard he tried to track him down, he would only find Tsunayashiro Tokunada in the end, but he still felt a little worried when he participated in the attack on the Lan Yan brothers. As the strength, ability, talent, and wisdom of the Lan 200 Yan brothers are revealed one by one, this worry is also constantly magnified. Not a single one. Hearing Kuchiki Yinling said that Lan Yan was only worse than him, Kuchiki Shang was very dissatisfied, but he still felt inferior to Aizen's magnanimity. The ability of Zanpakuto is the root of Shinigami. Although Seraiti requires the students of Spiritual Arts Academy to liberate Zanpakuto once upon graduation, who knows whether Shikai's name is true or not? As for the ability, there is no way to know. But you see, Aizen, make known Zanpakuto's name, Kyoka Suigetsu and his Shikai abilities, and even, time and time again, liberate Zanpakuto for those who enroll in Spiritual Arts Academy without Shikai. Which captain in Gote 13 doesn't love such a person, and which sage and judge in Central 46 don't feel at ease? Kuchiki Yinling put down the white chess in her hand. But what about Hiriko Shinji? But he has been targeted, and he has been repeatedly persecuted against Aizen on trumped-up charges, even exercising the authority of the captain of the court guard. What do you make the other guard captains think? What do you make the Shinigami nobles think? What do you make all the Shinigami in Seraiti think? Shang, think about it again, how did Lan Yan do in this matter? He was humble and courteous but not afraid of power. He cut Hiriko with a sword but left room. He had a certain amount of advance and retreat, neither humble nor overbearing, neither flinched, there is no sharp edge, and everything is just right. His voice is full of praise for brother Lan Yan, as well as a trace of deeply hidden regret. The son-in-law I chose is very good, but I am not afraid of not knowing the goods, but I am afraid of comparing goods. Compared to brother Lan Yan, Kuchiki Shang is really too mediocre. The only one that can be sold is the Zanpakuto Muramasa, but the opponent's ambition is not enough to fully control this illusion-type Zanpakuto. Now you go around every team in Seraiti and listen to Lan Yan's comments. Treat your younger brother like your heart, draw your sword and kill the captain. The old man has been the captain of the court guard for so many years, and I have never seen anyone who can use such a strong method to kill a well-connected court captain and win the captain's position. Most of Shinigami's praises, even the vice-captains, chairmen, and team members of the 5th squad are ashamed to admire. Kuchiki Silver Bell is also breathtaking. Even Byakuya Kuchiki, who received advanced Shinigami education since he was a child, is not as good as brother Lan Yan. It's hardly like a Shinigami of Rukongai origin. Master Yinling, can't it be copied? Kuchiki Shang is still unwilling to watch Lan Yan surpass him and become the captain, leading the 5th team, but he can only shrink back to the 3rd seat in the 6th team. With the lessons learned from brother Lan Yan, he was immediately moved and wanted to follow suit. What do you copy? You have Lan Yan's talent that surpasses the history of Soul Society. You have his personality charm that can convince first-generation Kenpachi. Do you have his aptitude and strength that makes Captain Yamamoto want to be his disciple? Furthermore, do you have a younger brother like Aizen who secretly sacrificed his own Zanpakuto to pave the way for your Kuchiki Sound River? Kuchiki Yinling saw her earnest teaching and comfort, but Kuchiki Shang was still not awakened. His eyes turned cold instantly, and his tone suddenly became serious. Aizen seemed to be only playing the role of being innocently persecuted by Hiriko Shinji when Lan Yan won the captaincy of the 5th team, but it was precisely because Hiriko Shinji chose Aizen that he lost the captaincy for him. Asking for money sows the seeds of disaster. Not every Shinigami is called Lan Yan Sosuke. Not every younger brother is called Aizen Sosuke. Learning to run before learning to walk is never a problem. First ask yourself if you are a genius, but if your Kuchiki Shang has 1/10 of the talents and skills of any of those 2 Sosukes, let alone the captain of the court, even if you when it comes to competition, captain of the guard, why not butcher betting the entire Kuchiki family on you? But you, have you? The more Kuchiki Yinling spoke, the more serious her tone became. After speaking, he was still angry and walked away on the spot. No way. In his opinion, it is his gift that Kuchiki Hibiki survived the hunting of Tsunayashiro Tokunada and became a member of the Kuchiki family. The results of it, over the years, how much effort he has devoted to the opponent is no worse than Byakuya Kuchiki. In exchange, it turned out to be a Shinigami whose mind and strength did not match at all. Rather than being the pillar of the Kuchiki family, it might as well be the time bomb of the Kuchiki family. It's been more than 50 years, and it's unexpected that his ambition still hasn't improved much. Forget it, after all, there is a son-in-law relationship between me and him, so if we continue to stay in the 5th team, we won't get any training at all. Let's send it to a team. Kuchiki Yinling left without looking back, while making a decision in her heart. Send Kuchiki Hibiki to Team 1. After all, he is his own son-in-law, so powerful that he is the best in the Kuchiki family, so he can't just leave him alone. However, he didn't know that Kuchiki Hibiki, who was sitting cross-legged, lowered his head. His eyes were gradually filled with bloodshot eyes, and there was also strong resentment. Say I'm not as good as Lan Yan, say I'm not as good as Aizen, but don't let me fight. If it wasn't for your repeated suppression, I would have already been the captain of the court guard. Kuchiki Yinling, one day I will prove to you, and the entire Kuchiki family, that it was not I who robbed the Kuchiki family, but the Kuchiki family robbed me. Kuchiki Hibiki clenched his hands into fists, his nails were slightly pierced into his palms, and there was a hint of scarlet. A team conference room. With Yamamoto Genryusai as the center, the 11 guard captains lined up in 2 rows of centimeters from the left and right. Secondly, including the chief captain, behind every guard captain there is a deputy captain. Boom! Suddenly, Yamamoto Genryusai leaned on his cane forcefully, which lifted everyone's spirits slightly and focused their attention on him. Today, the old man summoned all the captains to come to the conference hall, and there are 3 things to announce to you. First, it is the dispatch of the 6th team the chief. From now on, I decided to transfer Kuchiki Shang, the 3rd member of the original 6th division, from this division and merge into the 1st division, appointing him as the captain of the special forces. Seeing everyone looking at him, Yamamoto Genryusai cut to the chase and spoke crisply. Pata, as the only Shinigami present who is neither captain nor vice captain. When Kuchiki heard the sudden appointment of Yamamoto Genryusai, he was surprised at first, and then ecstatic. Having been the 3rd seed of the 6th division for decades, he naturally knows that besides Gote 13, Seraiti also has some special teams that directly belong to different divisions. For example, the 2nd division, under its banner consists of Xingjun, Police Patrol Team, Supervision Team, Liting Team and so on. The special forces are directly under the 1st team of Yamamoto Genryusai, and are only dispatched by the general captain, and are not under the jurisdiction of anyone. Whether it is status or power, they are not comparable to the 3 seats of a 6th division team. Shang will never fail the great trust of His Excellency the Captain. Kuchiki Hibiki immediately walked to the center of the two captains, and knelt down on one knee towards Yamamoto Genryusai, his voice full of joy and excitement that could not be concealed. In the team building, no matter who you are, even if you are the son of the four great nobles, you must kneel on one knee. Only the vice captain of the court guard can bow and salute. Only the captain of the guard cannot salute anyone, let alone kneel down on one knee to anyone, even if the other party is the captain of the guard. Back off. Hearing this, Yamamoto Genryusai's face was calm, neither happy nor sad. If it weren't for the fact that Kuchiki Kazukawa's Zanpakuto was too dangerous, and Kuchiki Yinling was behind him, he really wouldn't have appointed this Kuchiki Kazukawa as the captain of the special forces. After all, he has heard about the lack of ambition of the other party. I saw it today, as expected. It was just the appointment of the captain of a special force, and he was overjoyed. His thoughts were fully exposed in front of everyone, and his will and strength were completely out of proportion. Yes, Kuchiki Hibiki, who had just been appointed, was still immersed in the joy of being promoted. He didn't notice the change in Yamamoto Genryusai's tone at all, let alone the disappointment in Kuchiki Yinling's eyes behind him, side by side with a group of vice captains. This is the weight of the captain of a team of special forces. I think all the captains have heard about it. The former captain of the 5th Division, Hiroko Shinji, as the captain of the Kote, did not lead by example. Instead, he went to the Spiritual Arts Academy with the authority of the captain, blatantly bullying students. Quote, 7 days ago, Lanyan Sosuke issued a battle message to Hiroko Shinji to protect his brother's safety, and initiated a captain's duel. Witnessed by Captain Unohana, Captain Isshin, Deputy Captain Sasaki, and a total of 600 Shinigami members, defeat Hiroko Shinji. Afterwards, the old man Yamamoto Genryusai and the two captains inspected Lanyan Sosuke, and concluded that there was no problem with this person's strength and character, and he was highly respected by many Shinigami players and students, so the old man we have decided to appoint Spiritual Arts Academy graduate Lanyan Sosuke as the new captain of the 5th team. Yamamoto Genryusai looked around the audience, his voice first showed some dissatisfaction, and then turned to appreciation when he talked about Lanyan. Click. As soon as he finished speaking, the closed door of the conference room opened. Immediately, under the gazes of the guard captains and vice captains, who were curious, admiring, jealous, or resentful, Lanyan walked leisurely in front of the two Q captains and vice captains until he came to the in front of Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni, captain of Division 5. In the crowd, Kuchiki Shong looked at Lanyan, who attracted all eyes and became the focus of the captain and vice captain's eyes, and the joy on his face froze instantly. Don't look at the same appointment as the captain, but in fact the captain of the special forces and the captain of the 5th division are not the same at all. To put it simply, the gap between the lower-level nobles and the great nobles is average. This contrast, the joy of having just been promoted, is gone in an instant. Long time no see, swell. Lanyan greeted Yamamoto Genryusai. This is the first time the two have met since the graduation exam. You should change your name. Captain Lanyan. Now you are the new captain of the 5th division. When Yamamoto Genryusai heard the words, a smile flashed in his eyes, but he reminded him. He didn't mind Lanyan calling himself the principal, on the contrary he was happy to do so. It's just that under the watchful eyes of everyone, as the captain, he habitually corrected a sentence. I see, headmaster. Lanyan nodded. Yamamoto Genryusai didn't speak, but the smile in the depths of his eyes grew stronger. Those who are familiar with him, such as Unohana Yakiryu, Hiroku Shunsui, Jashiro Yukitaki, and Kuchiki Ginbel, all know it. His silence is not angry, on the contrary, he is not in a good mood. Without him, just because after Lanyan became the captain of the 5th division, he was still called the principal. This is also tantamount to telling the other Gote captains, the vice captains, that Yamamoto Genryusai still regards him as the Shinigami teacher. If it was any other Shinigami who dared to go beyond the rules, they would definitely be greeted with ruthless shouts. Now, what Lanyan got was Yamamoto Genryusai's acquiescence. Is this his weight? It can actually make the staid, serious, and unsmiling chief captain acquiesce in the relationship between the students and the principal. In the eyes of the chief captain, his status is probably no lower than that of his disciples, Hiroku Shunsui and Jashiro Yukitaki. It's not easy. No wonder he was able to replace Hiriko Shinji. None of the captains present is a human being. Although they don't know Yamamoto Genryusai as well as Kyoraku Shunsui and others, but after a little thought, they will react. Gote 13. In the past, there were only two names for Yamamoto Genryusai that were distinct from any Shinigami. Kyoraku Shunsui, Jashiro Yukitaki. The former called Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni as Mr. Yamamoto, and the latter as Mr. Genryusai. It's not just a status symbol, it's a status symbol. But now, after the two, there is a third person with an exclusive title. Blue Yan Sosuke. You are rude, you should call the Chief Your Excellency, or the Chief. Seeing this, Kuchiki Shanghai's eyes flashed with joy, and then ignored Kuchiki Yinling's eyes to stop him, suddenly passed the other vice-captains, stepped forward and said to Lan Yan. This scene also made Muguruma Kensai, Otoribashi Rojiro, and Love Akawa, who were thinking about finding an opportunity to trip Lan Yan and vent their anger on Hiriko Shinji, stunned at the same time. Chapter 61. Whose general is this? So brave. Can't he see that even the captain himself has acquiesced in the title of principal? After Muguruma Kensai, Otoribashi Rojiro, and Love Akawa found out that the person who spoke was actually Kuchiki, the three immediately exchanged a look, and then they all saw pity and disappointment in each other's eyes. Originally, when they saw that the other party was the son-in-law of the Kuchiki family, they were secretly happy for a while. After all, the Kuchiki family was fighting against Lan Yan, and they were happy to watch the excitement. In this way, without having to face Lan Yan directly with a few of them, this man can still be devastated. As a result, when Kuchiki Hibiki opened his mouth, they were stunned. No matter how many people think about it, they can't imagine that the son-in-law of the dignified Kuchiki family is actually a fool with a lack of ambition. With such things, expecting the opponent to fight Lan Yan in the ring, it is estimated that will not be able to survive a round. Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni first glanced at Kuchiki Hibiki, then at Kuchiki Yinling. The seemingly old-eyed and dim eyes are only short of writing a few words. Yinling, you recommended such a person to this old man. Hurry up and take your stupid son-in-law away. Kuchiki Ring River. The meeting hall of the first team is not a place where you can speak lightly. Quickly back down. Kuchiki Yinling's eyelids twitched, and she thought to herself, what a crime. This moment, he just felt ashamed and thrown at home, but he had no choice but to come out to protect Kuchiki Shang even if he was crying and kneeling. Master Yinling, did I say something wrong? As the captain of the court guard, you should lead by example and set an example for Shinigami. Lan Yan's words and deeds were out of manners and offended the captain. As the captain of a special unit, I need to remind him, what is respect? What is the rule? What is the authority? Kuchiki Hibiki said one word at a time. Every word and deed seemed to be defending the authority of Yamamoto Motoryasai Shigekuni. He didn't see the captain of the court and the deputy captain of the court at all. They all looked at him like idiots. Enough. Do you have a voice here? Quickly apologized to Captain Lan Yan. Kuchiki Yinling was completely angry. Originally, as long as Kuchiki Shang retreated just now, he could forcibly expose this matter by relying on his status as the head of the nobles, the head of the Kuchiki family and the captain of the 6th division. Unexpectedly, Kuchiki Kazukawa pretended to be clever and used the pretext of defending the authority of Yamamoto Yuanryasai Shigekuni to call out a very popular captain of the 5th division in Seraiti. Seeing that his son-in-law is committing suicide again and again, and may even drag him into Kuchiki's house at any time, he can only suppress his anger and ask him to apologize. Master Yinling, what did you say? Kuchiki looked at Lan Yan in astonishment. Make yourself sorry. Only other people have ever apologized to people with the surname Kuchiki. How can people with the surname Kuchiki apologize to others? Moreover, as his own father-in-law, why did he come over to help outsiders instead? I order you to apologize to Captain Lan Yan now, immediately. Kuchiki Yinling's eyes gradually turned cold. If he could, he would not want to do it. After all, no matter how bad Kuchiki Shang was, he would have joined the Kuchiki family and given him the Kuchiki surname. But now he doesn't want Lan Yan to focus on the Kuchiki family, lest the other party ask about Byakuya Kuchiki's past. To test something. If you think about the assassination in the Spiritual Arts Academy dormitory that night, it will be even more ominous. After all, the current Lan Yan is no longer a freshman who just enrolled in Spiritual Arts Academy more than a month ago, but the captain of the 5th team of Gotei 13. Regardless of the relationship with other captains, the strength he showed when he killed Hiriko Shinji made even Kuchiki Yinling fear him. A genius with what it takes to be the strongest Shinigami of the millennium. If it is not necessary, of course I don't want to offend. Kuchiki Shang wanted to refuse, but when he saw that Kuchiki Yinling's eyes and expression had become extremely serious, he realized the seriousness of the matter, but he still didn't think he did something wrong, let alone apologize. What are you still doing? Need me to speak for you? Seeing that Kuchiki Shang was still putting down his shame, Kuchiki Yinling became even more angry. Obviously, a few days ago, he spoke earnestly and confided with the other party to make him realize the weight and ability of Lan Yan. I never thought that those words were all about the dog. Shang-He, don't apologize. As long as I'm here, no one in this world can humiliate you. That Shinigami named Lan Yan, no matter how powerful he is only a Shinigami. As long as he is a Shinigami, he cannot be our opponent. At this moment, Murakami appeared beside Kuchiki Hibiki out of thin air, already holding a Zanpakuto in his hand. Just wait for his master to give an order, and immediately shine the sword. Muramasa. After Kuchiki Shang heard this, a flash of emotion flashed in the depths of his eyes, but with the few brains left, he fell silent when he thought of the consequences of drawing the sword. You're fine. Seeing that Kuchiki Shang treated his words like wind in his ears, Kuchiki Yinling's eyes were no longer angry, but cold. It's not like looking at your own son-in-law at all, it's more like an enemy. It's okay, Captain Yinling. Actually, personally, I am still happy to listen to the voices of Shinigami from the grassroots. After all, I graduated from Spiritual Arts Academy in 1 month, and I became the captain of Gotei 13 as soon as I graduated. Regarding the rules and regulations of the Soul Society, I really don't necessarily have to marry a wealthy Kuchiki. After decades of being a Shinigami, I still stop at Xiaohei, who is the 3rd seat in the 6th team, is clear. Just when Kuchiki Yinling was about to say something, Lan Yan suddenly spoke and interrupted him. Little River. Lan Yan, other people are more than 100 years older than him. I heard before that Hiriko Shinji was so angry that he vomited blood with a few words. Now it seems that the rumors are true. His mouth, as dysentery as his Zanpakutos. It is obviously a very humble word, but after Lan Yan said it, there is a Versailles style in it and out of it. After Shiba Yishin, Unohana Yakiryu and others heard this, they couldn't help laughing secretly. Lan Yan. After Kuchiki Shang heard this, his complexion changed drastically, and he was completely out of breath. After a lot of difficulty, he couldn't hold back the anger and impulse in his heart and stopped using Muramasa. At this time, he was stimulated by Lan Yan's great yin and yang technique, and immediately stretched his hand to Zanpakuto at his waist. Not good. Seeing this, Kuchiki Yinling's pupils constricted suddenly. He never dreamed that Kuchiki Shangechungfu and his ambition were so poor. Lan Yan just said a few words and drew his sword. Seeing that the situation was about to collapse, he didn't even care about Kuchiki Shang daring not to listen to his words, so he asked Shunpo to step forward to prevent the opponent from drawing his sword. Kuchiki Shang didn't know the heights of the sky and the earth was thick, but Kuchiki Yinling knew it very well. If Muramasa's knife is pulled out by the opponent in front of the captains and vice-captains of Gotei 13 in the meeting hall of the 1st team, no matter right or wrong, no matter the reason, Kuchiki Shang and his Zanpakuto village don't even try to keep it. The reason why he recruited Kuchiki Hibiki as his son-in-law, and did not hesitate to send his daughter to the common people of Rukongai, was not because he valued the opponent's Shinigami talent and Muramasa's ability. How could Kuchiki Hibiki and Muramasa just be ruined like this? Snapped. However, before Kuchiki's silver bell had time for Shunpo to step forward, a figure flickered forward and came to Kuchiki Hibiki. The moment he drew his saber, he stretched out his hand to hold the front of the hilt of the saber, and slapped Zanpakuto who was about to be unsheathed back. Whisper, Muramasa. Seeing this, Kuchiki Shang thought that Lan Yan wanted to take his own Zanpakuto, just like he did Hiriko Shinji, and reflexively called out the liberation language. It's over. When Kuchiki Yinling heard the word, Muramasa, his heart sank to the bottom of the valley instantly. Presumptuous. As expected, Yamamoto Yuanryasai Shigekuni, who has been silent for 24 years, suddenly opened his eyes. Where is the old dizzy eyes from before, and some are just as cold as a scabbard blade. In Seraiti, it is absolutely forbidden for Gote captain-level Shinigami to liberate Zanpakuto without authorization, not to mention that this is the meeting hall of the first team. Kuchiki Hibiki's behavior clearly ignored him. But this second, Yamamoto Motoyanagisai Shigekuni was stunned. Kuchiki Yinling was also stunned. Even Kuchiki Hibiki himself was overwhelmed. Muramasa, who was still by his side just now, eager to draw his sword, did not show up in front of everyone because he called out his name, and then drew his sword and pointed at Lan Yan. Disappeared out of thin air. Where's Muramasa? Kuchiki Yinling looked around, but could not find Muramasa at all. That Zanpakuto, known as the Shinigami Nemesis, was also sealed. Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni was taken aback for a moment, then realized immediately, and then looked at Lan Yan. The other captains and vice-captains who had heard a little about Muramasa's ability also set their sights on Lan Yan in unison. As expected, I saw Lan Yan's palm holding Kuchiki Hibiki's Zanpakuto knife handle. Can't do shikai, can't even draw a sword. This scene shocked all the Shinigami, including Kuchiki Yinling, except Yamamoto Yuanyanagi Shigekuni and Unohana Yakiryu. Lan Yan, you. Kuchiki Shang felt that the village was sinking like a stone in the sea. No matter how he called his name, there was no response at all, and he didn't know why it was Lan Yan. You just said that you want to teach me, what is dignity? What is rule? What is authority? I was the captain on the first day, and I really didn't learn everything. I only know one thing, fist is power. Lan Yan held down the hilt of Muramasa's saber with one palm, and slowly gathered his 5 fingers into a fist, holding Muramasa in the palm of his hand. Xiaohei, what do you think? With a little force, he brought his sword and punched to Kuchiki Hibiki, whose face was gradually filled with astonishment and disbelief, and asked a serious question. What did you do to my Zanpakuto? Lan Yan, answer me. Kuchiki Hibiki roared angrily, and his eyes showed anger, anxiety, and a trace of hidden deep fear. Why can I marry into Kuchiki's family? Why can I become the son-in-law of Kuchiki Yinling? Why was it given the Kuchiki surname? It's not all because of Muramasa. It's just that his will and strength don't match, he's not mentally handicapped, and he knows all the twists and turns. But after Lan Yan stepped forward and grabbed the handle of his Zanpakuto with one hand, Muramasa lost his voice. No matter how much he shouted at Kuchiki, there was no response. There is a problem with the capital of the wealthy family, can you not panic? Don't yell, it just makes you look weak. Also, remember not to use you when you talk to me next time, please call me Captain Lan Yan. Lan Yan quietly stared at the roaring Kuchiki River. Do you remember? The voice fell. His eyes glowed, one black and one gold respectively, 2 colors of light. The left eye, like a bright sun, blooms with brilliance that illuminates the earth. The right eye, like a ferocious black hole, exudes darkness that devours everything. When Kuchiki Shang met Lan Yan's eyes, he felt that Zanpakuto was swallowed up, and his spiritual body was pierced through his heart by thousands of blades. A panic that had never been seen since mastering Zanpakuto Muramasa emerged in his heart. It's like a boundless darkness that cages the body and mind. 1 second, he was a little hysterical, and the next second, he became strangely quiet. I haven't heard your answer yet. Kuchiki Ring River. Lan Yan's tone of voice was clearly calm, but in Kuchiki Shanghai's ears, it was as heavy as 1,000 weights, like an invisible mountain, oppressing him until his body trembled, and he woke up from an unprecedented panic. I see. Captain Lan Yan. Hearing the change of Kuchiki Hibiki's tone before and after, Lan Yan let go of the village that was in his hands. Call out. Kuchiki Shunpo retreated, dodged to the door of the meeting hall, and then roared in his heart regardless of the strange eyes around him. Muramasa. As Lan Yan withdrew his hand, Muramasa, who just kept shouting and didn't respond in the slightest, appeared immediately. Of course, only Kuchiki Hibiki saw this. Shang, don't let him touch me. As soon as Muramasa appeared, before Kuchiki shouted angrily, he said with fear on his face. What exactly have you been through? Why did I call out to you, but there was no response? The person who asked me to do it just now is obviously you. Kuchiki Shong saw that Muramasa was full of jealousy, and there was a hint of uneasiness in his eyes. He couldn't help but think of the experience when he met Lan Yan's eyes just now, and the anger in his heart dissipated immediately. I just saw a huge black hole and was sucked into it. There is nothing around but darkness. I tried everything I could to get out. Muramasa did not hide it. Maybe he also wanted to share his experience with Kuchiki Shong. Aren't you in charge of Zanpakuto? Why not use your ability to make Lan Yan's Zanpakuto cut himself off? Kuchiki Hibiki held back his anger and questioned Muramasa. I can't do it. When I was held by his hand, I couldn't use all my abilities. It was also the first time Muramasa encountered such a situation. In the past, no matter facing any Shinigami, facing any Zanpakuto, he could dominate the opponent's Zanpakuto with a single thought. Let him become his subordinate. But he was a face-to-face room, sealed by Lan Yan. What about Bankai? Kuchiki's eyes twitched after hearing this, and the uneasiness in his heart grew stronger. Muramasa has always been his greatest reliance. Even, in the bottom of my heart, I fantasize that one day Zanpakuto, who controls Yamamoto Genryusai, will become the new captain. But now that the village is facing Lan Yan's first defeat, he can't help but wake up, and he wants to fart. My abilities are useless. But Shong, you don't have to worry. The key is that I was caught by him. This may be Lan Yan's Zanpakuto ability. That is to say, if you fight him again, just use Bankai before I get caught by him, release my power, let me enter his inner world, and definitely control that Zanpakuto. After Muramasa's heart palpitations passed, he also felt extremely aggrieved and angry. All this time, he has dismissed any Zanpakuto, not even Yamamoto Genryusai's Ryujin Jaka. In his view, the Zanpakuto of the Shinigami of the entire Soul Society are all his subordinates and should be born to submit to him. But what happened just now? It was actually sealed in reverse by a dismissive Zanpakuto. How can the village, which has always regarded itself very highly and regarded all Zanpakuto as nothing, accept it? I can fight back. Hearing Muramasa's words, Kuchiki Hibiki secretly breathed out. Not only did it dispel the oppression and panic that Lan Yan just brought to him, but it even created the illusion that I can fight back. Kuchiki Ring River. Suddenly, Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni's unrecognizable majestic voice came from the front, interrupting Kuchiki Hibiki, who was communicating with Muramasa. Your Excellency Captain. After being handled by Lan Yan, Kuchiki Hibiki's feverish head also cooled down. Recalling what happened to him just now, his face changed again and again, and he quickly knelt down on one knee, thinking to himself. It's going to be bad. Captain Kuchiki, what do you think? As if to confirm his idea, Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni asked Kuchiki Yinling. This is also due to the fact that Kuchiki Hibiki is the son-in-law of Kuchiki Yinling, otherwise he would have changed to another Shinigami, regardless of whether it was the third seat or the vice captain. He didn't even say this, and directly ordered the execution. Captain, Kuchiki Shong is no longer the third seat of the sixth team, but the Shinigami of the first team. Everything is at the disposal of the captain. I have no objection. Kuchiki Yinling understood, so he just slapped a set of Bakudo on Kuchiki Shong, and then sent it to Yamamoto Genryusai. Kuchiki Hibiki, blatantly disrupting the captain's inauguration ceremony, roaring at the chamber, liberating Zanpakuto without permission. No distinction is made between superiority and inferiority, disrespect to the captain, and disrespectful words, the subordinates offend the superiors. This old man hereby removes you as the captain of the special forces of the first team, removes the position of the chief officer, and temporarily retains your status as a Shinigami member of the first team. Yamamoto Genryusai was not too polite. He took back the post of captain of the special forces who had just acquired Kuchiki Shong for 2 or 3 minutes, before he even had time to cover the heat, and even slapped him to the end, turning him into a team Shinigami players. What? Kuchiki Hibiki's expression changed suddenly, and he exclaimed. It doesn't matter if the promotion you get is blown away, but it's still pushed to the end. How could he, who is so proud, accept it? In particular, one of his crimes was actually disrespecting the captain. Why, Lan Yan has been the captain since he arrived, and he can speak wild words and chat with Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni, but he clearly wants to defend the authority of the captain, and the person who offends him is not guilty, but he adds to the crime. This kind of differential treatment filled him with anger, but he had nowhere to vent it. You don't agree? Yamamoto Genryusai narrowed his eyes slightly, and a cold light flashed past him. I am willing to be punished. Kuchiki Ring wanted to say something, but when he noticed Kuchiki Yinling's eyes looking at him, his heart tightened, and he had to lower his head so that no one could see the anger and dissatisfaction in his eyes, and then reluctantly said in a low voice. Guys, big or small, don't back down. Kuchiki Yinling's voice was full of hatred for iron and steel. Going through the back door by himself, the captain of the special forces that he managed to win, flew away as soon as he got it, and it was also caused by Kuchiki Hibiki's arrogant stupidity and superciliousness. Thinking about it makes me angry. After what happened today, he already had the idea of letting Byakuya Kuchiki replace Kuchiki Hibiki in his heart. Yes, Kuchiki Hibiki lowered his head, like a defeated rooster, and walked towards Kuchiki Yinling. It's just that no one saw him, his face was covered by the drooping bangs, full of gloom and resentment. Even if the surname Kuchiki is given, it is not the blood of the nobles after all. When a monkey puts on human clothes, it is still a monkey. It is absolutely impossible to become a human. How about taking out the spirit master fragments in his body? Just as the two passed by, Kuchiki Yinling glanced at Kuchiki Shang from the corner of her eye, and a thought came to her mind, but after thinking about it, she was immediately suppressed. The fragments of the Spirit King are okay. With the background of the Kuchiki family, it can be completely extracted and transferred to Byakuya Kuchiki. But compared to the Soul King fragment, he cared more about Muramasa's Zanpakuto. The Spirit King's shards can be extracted and transferred, but not right. What's more, regardless of ambition, city and means, Kuchiki Hibiki's Shinigami talent is outstanding and impeccable, even surpassing his grandson, Byakuya Kuchiki. Due to various considerations, Kuchiki Yinling was reluctant to give up Kuchiki Shang in the end. Sure enough, the son-in-law of the Kuchiki family was vulnerable. Quote, isn't even Muramasa fearless? No wonder Hiriko fell so badly. What kind of abilities are hidden in Lan Yan's Zanpakuto? And his Shunpo, it's unbelievably fast. Even Kuchiki, who has the strength of the captain, can't handle it. Witnessing the confrontation between Lan Yan and Kuchiki Kazukawa, which ended in a fiasco for Kuchiki Kazukawa, Muguruma Kensai, Otoribashi Rojuro and Love Aikawa exchanged glances, and they all saw horror and fear in each other's eyes. They have also seen the Muramasa of Kuchiki Shang before, and if they match up, they will definitely not be able to please them. But what about Lan Yan? Shunpo with one hand made Kuchiki Hibiki unable to react. Grab it casually, and let Muramasa sink into the sea. Such strength, if I hadn't seen Wang Zhao with my own eyes, I would never believe it. This is a person who has been in contact with Shinigami for less than 2 months. Captain Lan Yan, this is your Haori. As the Kuchiki episode passed, 2 Shinigami from the first team came, holding a set of long-sleeved and short-sleeved Haori in each hand, and knelt down in front of Lan Yan. He glanced at it, reached out and picked up the long-sleeved Haori in front of him, and put it on casually. Another Shinigami holding a short-sleeved Haori saw this and retreated knowingly, but after leaving the meeting room, he immediately sent the short-sleeved Haori in his hand to the captain's office of the 5th Division. Huh, Captain Lan Yan, you've become even more handsome. I was wondering just now, if he chooses long-sleeved Haori, will he overturn his car? Whether it is strength or appearance, they are all so impeccable. The moment Lan Yan put on the captain's Haori, the female Shinigami present, whether they were the vice-captain or the captain, their eyes suddenly brightened a little, and they looked at him frequently, both openly and secretly. If the position of the captain of the court is extremely particular about the strength and means of the Shinigami, then the captain of the court, the Haori, whether it is long-sleeved or short-sleeved, is an extreme test of the appearance and figure of the Shinigami. Fortunately, Lan Yan not only has Zanpakuto, Reiatsu, and Zonquanzugi that surpass the King of Kings, but also has an appearance that surpasses the King of Kings. Short black hair, natural curly hairstyle with sword eyebrows and star eyes, giving people a feeling of heroism mixed with a bit of laziness. The black framed mirror on the bridge of the nose also makes the sharp eyes like sword light restrained a bit sharp, coupled with a heroic and tall body. After putting on the generous Shiba outfit and Captain Haori, not only is it not a bit bloated, but it adds a bit of majesty. Why don't you find a chance for Mr. Sean to make the captain's Haori look ugly again? Let's ask Captain Shutaro to change the dead Jong again. There should be room for decline. Sensing his vice-captain, Yadomaru Lisa's eyes frequently glanced towards Lan Yan, Kyoraku Shunsui felt a bit of a taste, and couldn't help but think to himself. In his opinion, as long as the Haori and Shiba costumes are ugly enough, after the captain wears them, everyone's looks will be on the same starting line. Captains who have similar thoughts are definitely not limited to Kyoraku Shunsui alone. Like Mugaruma Kensai. Like Love Akawa. Of course, not every male captain is dissatisfied with Lan Yan's appearance, and is full of hostility to his appearance. Good. This is the demeanor that the captain of the court guard should have in the old man's mind. Just like Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni, he saw that Lan Yan chose the stable long-sleeved Haori instead of the short-sleeved Haori, and after wearing it, he looked so outstanding, showing the prestige of the captain. There's no way, the captain doesn't care about his looks, he only cares about his dignity. Lan Yan completely fits his perception of the captain's demeanor and appearance. Captain Lan Yan, please return to your seat. As soon as Yamamoto Genryusai finished speaking, the captain of the column on his left, Unohana Yakyu and Kuchiki Yinling gave up their positions in unison. Lan Yan nodded, and walked calmly to Anakana Yakyu, not forgetting to nod to her and Kuchiki Yinling as a greeting. The whole process, all ignore Kuchiki Hibiki. This made him, who saw everything in his eyes, clenched his hands tightly. In addition to the inauguration ceremony of Captain Lan Yan, there is one more thing. It's also related to him. Come in. Seeing Gote 13, all in place, Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni felt much more pleasing to the eye, and then let go and said. Upon hearing this, all the captains turned their eyes to the entrance of the conference hall. Accompanied by the sound of footsteps, a figure with short brown hair and a pair of brown-framed mirrors on the bridge of the nose, who looked somewhat similar to Lan Yan, walked in from the door without haste. Aizen Sosuke, Kyoraku Shunsui, Kuchiki Yinling and others first looked at Lan Yan, and then looked at Aizen, who had already entered the meeting hall. The last thing is about the selection of Captain Lan Yan's vice team, as well as the scheduling of Aizen and the inauguration ceremony of the vice captain. What Yamamoto Motoyanagi said again was amazing. This is the chamber. All the discussions have always been about major events that can affect the entire Soul Society, such as the captain's inauguration ceremony. Can now, actually, in the incomparably solemn meeting room, discussing the matter of a Shinigami who just graduated from Spiritual Arts Academy and didn't even join the team, why didn't this make the captains and vice-captains present in an uproar? The deputy captain of the court also has an inauguration ceremony. Isn't that the patent of the captain of the court? And it is necessary to call the 12 captains and deputy captains as witnesses. If I remember correctly, the vice captain is not usually selected by the captain of the team. Brothers Lan Yan are appreciated and valued by the captain. Even the captain Jashiro and the leader of the Beijing band are far from their treatment. In the conference hall, the captains and vice-captains couldn't help discussing in low voices. Kuchiki Hibiki witnessed all this, his eyes and heart were almost filled with jealousy and resentment. I think he is the son-in-law of the Kuchiki family. He has joined Gote 13 for 50 years and has made great military exploits. But today is the first time he has truly set foot in the chamber. But what about brother Lan Yan? One just graduated and was named captain. Yamamoto Genryusai even called all the captains and vice-captains to hold the inauguration ceremony of the captains in the meeting hall. One just graduated and didn't even belong to a team. Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni talked about his scheduling in full view, and it was obvious that he started as the vice-captain, and then held a vice-captain's inauguration ceremony incidentally. This kind of attention and exception that has never happened to me. On the day of joining the team, starting from the beginning is the honor and treatment of the vice-captain. This is something he has never enjoyed. Boom. Quiet. Yamamoto Genryusai raised his crutches and gave a light stroke to the floor. The voices lingering in the meeting hall immediately dissipated. Aizen, you can choose between the 5th team and the 1st team. If you go to the 5th team, then you are Lan Yan's vice-captain, otherwise you choose to enter the 1st team, then the old man will appoint you as the 1st team's vice-captain. You can decide for yourself. Yamamoto Genryusai said something amazing again. Brother Lan Yan is the captain, younger brother Aizen is the vice captain. This is a double captain. Although Aizen is currently only a vice captain, but his talent, coupled with the love of the captain, and the support of Lan Yan, he was appointed as the captain of the court, but it is only a matter of time. If these two were born in Shinigami nobles, it would be enough for a low-level noble to break through the class overnight and become a high-level noble. As long as they grow up, aren't their descendants nobles? Witnessing that Yamamoto Genryusai is the Lan Yan brother, breaking the rules again and again, the captains all looked sideways, and the vice-captain in the back row was even more stunned. One school with two captains is something that people are extremely envious of. Not to mention that in Gotei 13, it has never happened that two captains invited the same Shinigami as vice-captain at the same time, especially one of the captains was Yamamoto Genryusai. The dignified captain of the guarding court not only extended an olive branch to a newly graduated Shinigami corporal in full view, but even put down his figure to compete with other Shinigami captains. Isn't this kind of thing shocking? Thank you, Captain, for your attention. Aizen is in a state of panic. Aizen did not make a choice right away, but took the lead in bowing slightly towards Yamamoto Genryusai. No matter in words or etiquette, he was impeccable. This also made Yamamoto Genryusai love it even more after watching it. No way. As the incumbent captain of the court guard grows longer and older, his thoughts gradually become more rigid and serious. A Shinigami like Aizen who is talented but abides by etiquette is undoubtedly the most admired by him, favorite. He allowed Lan Yan to break the rule because the other party was good enough and qualified, but for Aizen, it was really because of his own aesthetics. Aizen, there is no need to be polite, let alone panic. In view of your excellent character and outstanding strength, this old man decided to make an exception and give you the right to choose. In other words, this is the honor you deserve. For the first time, Yamamoto Genryusai said pleasantly. This also made the vice-captains smack their tongues secretly when they saw the captain of the guarding chief for the first time. I hope to go to the first team. Under the watchful eyes of all the Shinigami, Aizen pondered for a while, his eyes met Lan Yan in the team leader, and then he took it back. Why not the 5th division? You chose to join the 5th team, stay with Lan Yan, have his shelter and care, isn't it great? Aizen, I think you should have heard of it. In Seraiti, there are many Shinigami. They all envy you, and they are very eager to have a brother named Lan Yan like you. Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni heard the words, and at the same time he was happy, he couldn't help asking. I don't want to hide from your excellency, the captain, and I'm not afraid of the jokes of the captains and vice-captains. In fact, I respect my brother very much. He is my role model and the target of my emulation, but I don't know why, I feel that I have been living in his shadow, inside. It wasn't until just now that your words, Chief Captain, woke me up. What I can't do, my brother can do. What I can do, my brother can do better. If I have been by his side and lived under his protection, I will either become slack, or imitate him unconsciously. No matter what it is, the end result will be that I can't even see his back. On the contrary, following the captain, I will see a different scenery and make myself better. Aizen's words are half truth and half false, which not only fits the image of a younger brother who has been living under the protection of his elder brother and wants to be self-reliant, but also greatly satisfies the vanity of Yamamoto Genryusai as the captain. Old man, which is a shame. Following Lan Yan, I couldn't even see his back. By being by your side, you can become even better. Especially Yamamoto Genryusai. When he got older, he liked those people with lofty ideals who insisted on justice, abided by etiquette, and always pursued progress. Aizen's words, deeds, thoughts perfectly fit all the requirements in his heart for his junior Shinigami. Okay, the old man's first team, the door is always open to Shinigami like you. Aizen Sosuke, come here. Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni was elated when he heard that. He couldn't help but let go of the crutch in his hand, and waved to Aizen. Your Excellency Captain. After hearing this, Aizen immediately moved forward. Do you want to worship under the old master's sect to practice? Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni looked at Aizen who was close at hand, and the more he looked at it, the more he felt pleasing to the eye, and the more he looked at it, the more he couldn't put it down, so he couldn't hold back, and expressed the regret in his heart. Aizen was surprised and looked caught off guard. This is not acting, but real. He came here today just to become Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni's vice-captain, and he offered a full set of Kyokusui meals as a matter of course. He confessed that he would be accepted as a disciple. What? Didn't Your Excellency the captain say that he would no longer accept disciples? A disciple like Aizen, if it were you, would you refuse? Yeah, a modest gentleman, frank and upright, always maintains a heart of justice, but yearns for progress. This kind of disciple is simply the perfect candidate. Except for Kyoraku Shunsui and Jashiro Yukitaki, who were not surprised at all, everyone else, such as Shudara Senjumaru, Kuchiki Yinling, etc., all of them had slightly changed faces, and the captain and vice-captain couldn't help whispering. Your Excellency, Captain, this is my honor. The face under the framed mirror of Aizen was surprised, happy, and a little uneasy. The acting skills of 10 micro-expression changes in 1 second made Lan Yan on the side amazed. It's worthy of being a king. With such acting skills, it's no wonder that Hinamori Momo can be given to Pua to that extent. The master is scheming, and the city is as deep as Yamamoto Yuanliusai, and it is still difficult to escape the master's calculations. Obviously, he has long seen that from the moment Aizen entered the conference hall, every word he said, every expression and look in his eyes, were all designed in advance, just to handle Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni. So far, the results are good, if not too good. You are still called Your Excellency the Captain, it's time to speak. Seeing this, Jashiro Yukitaki was also very happy. After all, he knew that Yamamoto Genyakusai Shigekuni had been brooding since he lost his mentorship with Lan Yan brothers that night, regretting his prudence and worries that day. Now, although the Lan Yan brothers have not been wiped out, but being able to accept an Aizen can be regarded as fulfilling the regret of my teacher. Teacher Yuan Lujai. Only then did Aizen understand, and quickly changed his words. Good. Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni's serious face with little expression now showed a gratified smile. He was so ridiculously bright that he didn't notice that when Lan Yan looked at him, there was a hint of pity in his eyes. Dare to put the king in the door, Principal, you are really brave. Lan Yan shook his head secretly, admiring Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni's courage. Except for him, who is a brother, who has anything to do with the king will end well. Aizen's captain, Hirako Shinji, was manipulated by Kyokusui, became a hollow test subject himself, and was hacked to death in Karakura town. Aizen's colleagues, a large number of people from Vizard, also became hollows experiments, lost the positions of captain and vice-captain, became criminals, and could only live incognito in this world. Like a mouse crossing the street. Aizen's vice-captain, Hinamori Momo, would have died long ago if he hadn't been the #1 Shinigami tank. Aizen's subordinates, Ichimaru Jin, Tusen Kanami, and Espada, the deaths and endings of Shinigami and Arankar, are more exciting than the other, and beyond imagination. The main point is that the closer the relationship is, the more tragic the ending will be. Now Yamamoto Genryusai has become Aizen's teacher, and the relationship is closer than any of the above. One can imagine how exciting the future will be. The atmosphere is all heightened here. Why don't I take Lan Yan in too? Come and catch them all. After tasting the sweetness from Aizen, Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni suddenly had the idea of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. But when he couldn't help but look towards Lan Yan, and his eyes inadvertently swept across the long-sleeved feather knitting of the other party, he immediately extinguished this unrealistic idea. It's not that I don't want to, but I can't afford to teach. Lan Yan took less than 5 lessons at Spiritual Arts Academy, and he has already practiced Bankai himself. With only Shikai's ability, he defeated the guard captain Hirako Shinji with 1 blow, and forced the opponent to be unable to even use Bankai. And just now, in the meeting hall, facing Kuchiki Hibiki, who held Zanpakuto Muramasa, he was completely suppressed with 1 blow, even Muramasa's ability could not be used. Zanpakuto, Reiatsu, Kido, Kendo, white hits, Shunpo are impeccable in any aspect. Absolute hexagonal Shinigami. Yamamoto, who claims to be the strongest Shinigami in the millennium, felt that he was not qualified to be the other party's teacher for a long time. Master Shan doesn't want to accept Lan Yan as a disciple, does he? Why didn't Mr. Yuan Lujai speak? I see, Mr. Lian Shan doesn't even have the confidence to be Lan Yan's teacher. Yes, Aizen still has the confidence to teach, but Lan Yan, who dares to say that he is qualified to be his teacher? Seeing Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni looking at Lanyan, Kyoraku Shunsui and Jashiro Yukitaki thought that their teacher would come and catch them all, but they never thought of looking at Lanyan a few times, so they reluctantly pulled the eyes of the apprentices back. As students of Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni, after a little thought, they understood why. This time, it wasn't really a concern. But after this month, Lanyan, who has perfectly demonstrated Shinigami's talent, is too dazzling. Let the strongest Shinigami in the Millennium dare not say that he is the teacher of the other party. Aizen, although the old man put you in the wall, it doesn't mean that you can act recklessly and lawlessly. On the contrary, as the disciple of the head of the Gote, not only do you not have any privileges, but you have to abide by etiquette more than before, and be cautious in your words and deeds. Do you understand? After Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni withdrew his eyes full of reluctance from Lanyan, he immediately warned Aizen, the only disciple who got it, but before Aizen could speak, he himself changed the subject. Now, the old man, in the name of the captain of the court guard, appoints you as the deputy captain of the first team of the court guard. Besides, you will also serve as the captain of the first team of special forces. Missed Lanyan forever, and finally abducted the disciple Aizen. How could Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni not treat him well? This is not. 1 second, he was still uttering a warning, and the next second, he immediately assigned 2 positions as the captain of the special forces and the deputy captain of the first team. However, his decision left the captains and vice captains present speechless. Not only because in Gote 13, he symbolizes absolute authority, but also because Aizen's ability and character are impeccable. Certainly, the captain and vice captain of Guti have no objection, but Shinigami who is not the captain and vice captain is hard to say. For example, I am the captain of the special forces. Behind Kuchiki's silver bell, there was a sudden shout of shock and anger. All the Shinigami suddenly turned their heads, one after another. Admiring twilight landed on Kuchiki Shong, but he ignored it. No way. The scene just now was really irritating. Aizen was appointed by Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni as the vice captain of the first team, and he endured it. Aizen was recruited by Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni and became the captain's apprentice, and he endured it. But Aizen was appointed as the captain of a special unit by Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni, and he couldn't bear it. That was originally his own position, but before it was warmed up, he flew away because of Lanyan, and flew into the hands of the opponent's younger brother Aizen in front of his own face. This made Kuchiki Shong, who already had a deep grudge against Lanyan, accept it. Kuchiki Hibiki, are you questioning the old man's decision? Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni looked around and saw Kuchiki Hibiki roaring in the meeting room again, and this time he openly questioned himself, how could he, who is an authority on the Soul Society, accept? You, why don't you hurry up and shut up? Come on. Fork out the Kuchiki Ring River. When Kuchiki heard the silver bell, his complexion changed drastically. He didn't give Kuchiki Shong a chance to answer, and directly ordered his vice captain and the Shinigami team members who were guarding outside the door to throw the dead tree Shong away. Do you question it? I dare not. It's just that Aizen is just a Shinigami who just graduated, Hidehei can be the vice captain of the first team. Not to mention, holding 2 positions and commanding a team of special forces. Kuchiki Hibiki pushed away Kuchiki Aojun who was walking towards him. Presumptuous. What is your identity? Who do you think you are? You are just an ordinary member of the first team. It is a great exception to let you sit in the conference hall to listen. What about you? You just made a mistake again, but you know it and don't correct it. How dare you openly question this old man? Yamamoto Genryusai's eyes turned cold, and his crutches were firmly on the ground. Teacher Yuan Lujai, calm down. At this time, Aizen came out. Many Shinigami, such as Mugaruma Kensai, Otoribashi Rojuro, and others couldn't help but wonder if he was trying to add insult to injury. After all, this is a great opportunity to Kuchiki Hibiki, and the opponent just had a feud with Lanyan. As a younger brother, it is normal to do so. However, what Aizen said next, but because of Hiroko Shinji, Mugaruma Kensai and other captains and vice captains who were very dissatisfied with the Lanyan brothers were stunned, and even wondered whether Hiroko Shinji had misjudged Aizen. But only Lanyan knows that the show is about to start. Waiting for the future of Kuchiki Hibiki, there is only despair worse than death. Teacher Yuan Lujai, Please listen to me. Students thought that although Kuchiki Kazukawa spoke harshly, there was some truth in his questioning of my words. After all, I am new to the first team. I have no qualifications, lack of knowledge, and I don't have the ability to defeat the captain of the court like Captain Lan Yan. Being able to serve as the deputy captain is already valued by the teacher and the captains. The captain of the special forces will inevitably lead to gossip, which is not conducive to the unity of Gotei 13. Seeing that Aizen not only didn't add insult to injury, but said what he said, and also defended Kuchiki Shang somewhat, this made Kuchiki Yinling very envious and 100% regretful. If I had known that, I would not have been so impatient at the beginning. Seeing Kuchiki Shang holding the village, I hurriedly married off my daughter. I should have saved my daughter for 50 years before marrying any of the Lan Yan brothers. After this operation, the Kuchiki family won the position of the head of the nobles from the Tsunayashiro family, and it will be unshakable for at least 1,000 years. Aizen, I am very happy that you can think this way, because you have no power and status in your eyes, only unity and rules. But Gotei 13 is about qualifications, but more about ability and morality. You can be appointed as the deputy captain of the first team and the captain of the special forces. It has nothing to do with your teacher being the captain of the Gotei. It has nothing to do with your brother being the fifth team. It has nothing to do with being the captain, it's just because you, Aizen Sosuke, have both morality and ability, and you have this qualification, and you won it based on your strength. Especially what you said just now proves this point. On one side is Kuchiki Hibiki who questioned himself. On one side is Aizen Sosuke who rises to Gotei 13 unity. It is clear at a glance how Yamamoto Uenyanagi will be elected. Aizen, you deserve it. As for Kuchiki Hibiki, first, he disrespected Captain Lan Yan, blatantly yelled at the meeting hall, and liberated Zanpakuto in the first team. He did not know how to repent afterwards, openly questioned the appointment of the old man, was arrogant and extreme, and was jealous of talents. From now on, he will be expelled from the first team. Removal of team membership, temporarily imprisoned in the maggot nest. Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni first put the two positions of vice captain of the first team and captain of the special forces on Aizen's head, and then changed the subject and said that he would drive the married son-in-law of the Kuchiki family into the abyss, showing Seoul society the demeanor of absolute authority. What, Captain, you said you were going to kick me out of Gotei 13. Prison me in a maggot nest. Kuchiki Hibiki trembled physically and mentally, his face was full of astonishment. What did he do wrong? Blood was shed for Seraiti, and over 10,000 souls were established in the world of household souls. In the end, what they got in exchange was that they couldn't even keep their team membership, and they couldn't even be a Shinigami. Instead, it was Brother Lan Yan. A team with two captains. My brother used him to stand up. His younger brother took his position. Good. When will you know your mistakes and correct them? The old man will let you out. Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni paused every word, and his tone revealed unquestionable majesty. Ha 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 ha. First appoint a Shinigami who has no qualifications and achievements as the captain of the 5th division, and then appoint a Shinigami who also has no qualifications and achievements as the vice captain of the 1st division. Those who have ability, qualifications, and merits, but you treat them like nothing, and brazenly say that Gotei 13 is about qualifications but more about ability and morality. Kuchiki Shang, is not as good as Lan Yan. What is not as good as Aizen? Just when several Xingjun came to Kuchiki Shang and wanted to imprison him, he suddenly raised his head, and the powerful Reiatsu of the captain-level Shinigami filled his body. Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni, you are getting old. Gotei 13, you still want to judge me? It's just nonsense. No one in Seraiti can judge me, not even the captain of the guard. Accompanied by roars full of resentment, and jealousy, the violent Reiatsu, like a tornado, spread in all directions. Even those as strong as the vice captain faced the engulfing Reiatsu storm, all of them were terrified, unbelievable. Because of this Reiatsu, it has already surpassed many captains who were present at the court. If calculated with the Reiatsu unit of measurement, there are at least 2,000 military fists. Kuchiki Hibiki, do you know what you're talking about? You surrender now, and there is still a chance for a lighter sentence. If you still refuse to repent, don't blame me for taking back your Kuchiki surname and expelling you from the Kuchiki family. Kuchiki Yinling took a step forward with anger written all over his face. Who is the most shocking person present? That's definitely him. As for what Kuchiki Shang did today, the Kuchiki family will inevitably be implicated. The most important thing is that he has poured so much effort into Kuchiki Hibiki, and the Kuchiki family has not had time to reap the rewards from the other party, and it has already been compromised here. Yes, from Kuchiki Yinling's point of view, the Kuchiki Ring River in the Chamber of Commerce is already due to trouble. Saraiti is not the final decision of the Kuchiki family, and Room 46 is not the final decision of the Kuchiki family. Evict me from the Kuchiki family. Take back the Kuchiki surname. Ha 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 ha, do you, Kuchiki Yinling, regard me as your son-in-law? It's okay to disapprove of me in every possible way on weekdays. In the meeting room just now, you didn't say a word for me from the beginning to the end. Some just yell, Kuchiki, who wants that last name, take it, I don't need it anyway. From now on, Soul Society only has Hibiki, not Kuchiki Hibiki. Kuchiki, no, it was Shang who opened his arms, directly tore off the Kuchiki surname that countless people in the Soul Society dreamed of from his own name, and kicked it to the side. Of course, he did not forget to trample on both feet before that. This also makes Kuchiki Yinling, who regards the Kuchiki family's face more important than everything else, completely angry. Okay, if that's the case, then don't blame the old man for not remembering the old love. You are no longer surnamed Kuchiki, nor are you from the Kuchiki family, let alone the old man's son-in-law. Also, you have just tarnished Kuchiki's name, and this old man will personally clear your house. After Kuchiki finished speaking, he threw his right hand towards Zanpakuto. Only you, don't forget, who has the reputation of the Kuchiki family come from in the past 50 years. You haven't experienced his power, have you? Then let you, the Kuchiki patriarch, experience it today. A trace of disdain flashed in Shanghai's eyes. Bankai no hook strip Zukanjang. As Muramasa's Bankai name was called out, the Reiatsu on Kuchiki Hibiki's body, which was already as high as more than 20 boxing punches, soared again. This moment, all the vice captains can only curl up behind the Guti captains of their respective teams, so as not to be oppressed by this extremely powerful Reiatsu. However, Guti captain can block the oncoming Reiatsu, but he can't stop Kuchiki Hibiki's omnidirectional Bankai. Captain and vice captain level Shinigami, all step down. Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni issued the order immediately. Facing other opponents, not to mention a group of court guard captains, even a group of court guard deputy captains is enough to make people despair, but if the opponent is Shang, the number is meaningless at all. Late, Shang he grinned ferociously, with arrogance written all over his face. As expected, the guard captains at the forefront, their Zanpakuto unsheathed automatically, and then materialized one after another, using their Shikai abilities one by one to kill their masters. Only a few survived, such as Yamamoto Genryu Sai and Lan Yan Sosuke. This guy's Bankai, can he beat the Zanpakuto of so many hypnosis captains at once? This is the first time I have seen such a terrifying ability. Faced with Zanpakuto's backlash, Mugaruma Kensai, Otoribashi Rojiro and others were caught off guard and suffered trauma. After all, Zanpakuto was hypnosis, and they lost the Shikai and Bankai abilities. Facing Zanpakuto's fierce pursuit, the only ones who survived were Unohana Yakiryu, Kuchiki Ginring, Shiba Isshin, Shutara Senjumaru and Kyoraku Shunsui. Even Jashiro Yukitaki was wounded by his own Zanpakuto because of his weak and sick body. This is the power of the combination of Shang and Muramasa at their peak. Blue Yan Sosuke, that guy, how can he not be influenced by Muramasa? Is it because there are too many hypnosis Zanpakuto at once, causing the hypnosis ability to decline? Shang he wanted to enjoy the fight between the captains and vice captains and their Zanpakuto, but from the corner of his eyes, he suddenly found that Lan Yan's Zanpakuto had not been hypnosis, let alone materialized. Seeing this, although he was apprehensive in his heart, when he thought that he had been humiliated one after another just now and became the laughingstock in the eyes of all the Shinigami, his eyes suddenly shot up with murderous intent. I can't kill you, Lan Yan, can't I kill your brother? Thoughts turned in his mind. Shang he immediately turned his head, his eyes fixed on Aizen. Muramasa, don't blame the other Shinigami, I want Lan Yan to watch his brother die in front of his own eyes, but there is nothing he can do. Hearing his words, Kun Jung, who was also frustrated by Lan Yan and was extremely eager to get back his position, immediately followed suit. Not good. My Kyoka Suigetsu is out of control. Among the vice captains who had already exited the meeting hall, Aizen's face changed drastically. Just as he was about to stabilize Zanpakuto, Kyoka Suigetsu materialized and stepped forward, stabbing him in the chest. Aizen vice captain was assassinated. No, something big is going to happen. Captain Lan Yan, he must not mess around. Seeing Aizen who was stabbed by his own Zanpakuto and blood-stained the meeting hall, all the vice captains changed their faces drastically. They all knew very well that if Aizen was assassinated, what terrible consequences would be caused. After all, Hirako Shinji, the captain of the former 5th Division, lost everything overnight because he touched Aizen. Aizen. Just when many vice captains were extremely worried, a voice that sounded extremely calm came from their ears, but the killing intent contained in it made all the Shinigami shudder. Call out. Before they could react, Lan Yan had already stepped forward, grabbed the materialized Kyoka Suigetsu with one hand, and then pushed Kyoka Suigetsu back into the Zanpakuto that pierced Aizen's body with the other hand in front of all the vice captains. Is there still such an operation? Just imprison the out-of-control Kyoka Suigetsu, and then face Zanpakuto. As expected of Captain Lan Yan, the strongest talent Seoul society has ever seen. Seeing this scene, all the deputy captains, as well as many guard captains who were beaten to shame by their own Zanpakuto, were stunned. Brother, I'm sorry to trouble you. Leave me alone, put down the Zanpakuto rebellion first, and take down the sinner Shang. Also, spare him as long as possible, and let him stand trial by the Seraiti. Aizen sat paralyzed in a pool of blood, his face and clothes were all stained red with blood. Okay, hold on for a while. It will be over soon. Soon, Lan Yan recruited Katetsu Aizen, the vice captain of the 1st Division 4th Division. After asking him to help stabilize Aizen's injury, he got up and returned to the chamber. Aizen him. Yamamoto Genryusai stepped forward immediately. He just sensed the crazy drop of Aizen's Reiatsu, and knowing Muramasa's ability, his heart sank suddenly. Backed by Zanpakuto, the vice captain of the 4th Division is rescuing. He asked me to come over to quell this Zanpakuto rebellion first, and save Shanghai's life by the way. Bring him to trial by the Seraiti. Lan Yan's tone was neither salty nor weak, and he couldn't hear the slightest bit of anger, as if the injured person was not his own brother. After listening to Yamamoto Motonyanagi Shigekuni, he was so angry that his beard was blown like a waterfall. Of course, he wasn't angry with Aizen. On the contrary, he heard that the student who had just arrived and hadn't warmed up after Zanpakuto's sneak attack still didn't forget to tell his brother to capture Shang alive. He was distressed and appreciated. This is an existence that enshrines the justice and laws of Seraiti like an imperial decree. In other words, he enshrines the justice and law that Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni shaped like a god. For such a disciple, it was too late for him to love him, so he would not be angry. The monstrous anger was all sent out by the river. Since it is Aizen's request, I will save his life and not beat him into a spirit child. Lan Yan said word by word. Catch me alive, sentence me. Squeezing the Zanpakuto rebellion. Aizen, can you do it? You can't even protect your own brother. Listening to the conversation between Lan Yan and Yamamoto Genryusai, Shang smiled brightly, and at the same time did not forget to rub salt in the wounds of the two. I can do it. Faced with Shang He's ridicule, Lan Yan was not angry, but just walked towards Shang He. Kang, there are too many Shinigami here. If it's just Lan Yan or Yuan Lujai, I wouldn't be careful. 2 people, it's a bit troublesome, let's get out of here first. Anyway, Aizen has been solved, and you also let out a bad breath, and find a chance to deal with Lan Yan and Gote 13 in the future. At this time, the village is stepping forward to remind. Although, the captain of the guarding court is basically restrained by his own Zanpakuto, and the other vice captains are also afraid of his hypnosis ability and dare not step forward. But a blue-faced Sosuke, plus a Yamamoto Genryusai, their Zanpakuto is still there. Even if there is no Zanpakuto, it is still an extremely terrifying existence just by cutting fists and walking away ghosts. Good, Shang He thought for a while, and nodded in agreement, then looked at Lan Yan who was approaching him step by step. You're lucky. Let's behead your younger brother today, and I'll behead you next time. Lan Yan. Shang made a gesture of reaching out to wipe his neck, and did not forget to prod Lan Yan a few words, then cast Shunpo and escaped with Muramasa. The guard captain is busy with his own Zanpakuto. The deputy captain dared not step forward. It's useless even if the team members go up as the chief officer of the first team. He could only helplessly let Shang and Kunjang walk away. This is what Muramasa Bankai wrote after writing the power of Kyokawa's combination. It's not that after being sealed for 100 years in the future, Shinigami's power is extremely weak, and it is not comparable to Zanpakuto's haggard, wrinkled face. Order Gote 13 to arrest the sinner Shang, regardless of life or death. Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni did not rush forward either. Because just now he felt that Ryujin Jaka had changed, but due to his thousands of years of prestige and his great strength, there was no change. Of course, this is also because of Shanghai's strength. If it is not he who controls Muramasa, but Aizen, then even if the Zanpakuto of all the captains of hypnosis is scattered at once, causing the power to be dispersed, Ryujin Jaka can still rebel on the spot. Yes, another deputy captain of the first team, Chojiro Sasaki, was just about to summon him, but found that Lan Yan was walking towards the outside of the chamber, blocking his way. Captain Lan Yan. Chojiro Sasaki doesn't know why. Back off. There's no need for fanfare. It's just 3 seats in the top 6 teams. Does it need to be so hard? Lan Yan glanced at the many guard captains who were still in a stalemate with his own Zanpakuto, shook his head, and raised his right hand. The dark hell Hades. The voice just fell. The overwhelming black smoke, like a dark wave that devours everything, instantly engulfed the entire first team, and at the same time drowned all the guard captains, vice captains, and a group of Zanpakuto who were hypnosis-ed. Ah, my body can't move. What are these black substances? Trapped in the boundless darkness, Shinigami such as Unohana Yakiryu, Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni just felt that their vision was pitch black, but the Zanpakuto who were materialized by Muramasa hypnosis, without exception, all felt drawn by the terrifying gravitational force. Oppression is like a dark mountain that can't be seen, it's good, so you can only crawl on the dark ground, unable to move. Hiss. Terrible. It's just a move. With every gesture, 12 Zanpakuto, which made the captains burnt out, were given to the complete suppression number. Is this the strength of Soul Society's strongest genius in the millennium? It's also the captain of the court guard, how can the gap be so big? The vice captains who were also trapped in the dark prison underworld saw this scene, all of them felt astonished, they couldn't help but gasped, and their faces were horrifying. Just now they witnessed with their own eyes that after being materialized by Muramasa hypnosis, Zanpakuto, in a one-on-one situation, it is very difficult for their own captain to win, although there are also reasons why they cannot be ruthless because it is their own Zanpakuto. But now, Lan Yan just raised his hand, and immediately released the boundless darkness, like a stormy sea, swallowing everything, while engulfing the entire team. It also suppressed all the Zanpakuto who were hypnosis. What an amazing ability. It's the first time I've seen Kaden Kyokutsu look so embarrassed. No wonder Hirako lost so badly, even Bankai couldn't use it. Although none of our Zanpakuto have used Bankai yet, Lan Yan is only one person, and he has not used Bankai's power either. Your Excellency, Captain Nan, only dared to accept Aizen as a disciple, and did not dare to accept Lan Yan at all. It is not unreasonable. Such a talent cannot be taught. It wasn't just the vice captain who was shocked. Hieraku Shunsui, Jashiro Yukitaki and others looked at their Zanpakuto in such a mess, and they were also amazed at the strength of Lan Yan and the opponent's Zanpakuto ability. Before, they all speculated that Lan Yan's Shikai could only suppress or seal a handful of Zanpakuto, and it was in the case of direct contact, but now it seems that this is not the case. A large number of captain-level Zanpakuto were suppressed by flipping hands. Ryujin Jaka, just like the graduation exam, is he telling the old man about his fear of Lan Yan Zanpakuto? One face-to-face can suppress so many Zanpakuto. The candle yin held by Lan Yan is very likely to be the strongest Zanpakuto of the dark element. It's just that Zanpakuto, who is also the strongest in the element system, shouldn't make Ryujin Jaka so jealous. While listening to the voice of Ryujin Jaka, Yamamoto turned his eyes to Zanpakuto, who were engulfed and suppressed by the darkness, and materialized Zanpakuto. He was basically convinced that Lan Yan's candle yin is the strongest Zanpakuto in the dark department, but at the same time he also felt that it's a bit puzzling. For thousands of years, he has seen Shinigami who hold the strongest Zanpakuto of a certain line, not a few, and have defeated Shinigami who hold the strongest Zanpakuto, and these Zanpakuto with the strongest name can only be valued by Ryujin Jaka at most, can't be afraid at all. Only Lan Yan's candle yin liberated Zanpakuto twice in succession, and made his Ryujin Jaka appear as if he was facing an enemy. Sister Wa, Teacher Jashiro, Uncle Jingle, Teacher Yixin, don't you care about your Zanpakuto? Or do you want to see your Zanpakuto submit to me? If so, it's easy. Seeing Kaden Kyokutsu, Jejin, and Xuangyu Li, the strongest among the Zanpakuto, still want to struggle, Lan Yan reached out and grabbed it from the air, and a majestic black mist rose into the sky, turning into a giant dark palm, like Tathagata Buddha suppressed Sun Haozi, slapped him down, and directly killed Kaden Kyokutsu, and the Pisces and Carp were oppressed to the ground, unable to even struggle and twist. Wait, I'll be right there. Sorry, I was shocked by your strength. To trouble you, Captain Lan Yan. Hana Yakiryu, Kyoraku Shunsui, Shiba Izshin and Jashiro Yukitaki listened to it, but they were ashamed to stand aside and continue watching. After all, they have lived for hundreds of thousands of years. Facing the sudden Zanpakuto rebellion, instead of panicking, the few of them seemed to be having fun. But now that Lan Yan has spoken, they can only go forward, and face their Zanpakuto with a combination of Kido, Kendo and white hits, and quickly beat their Zanpakuto to submission again. Would bringing Zanpakuto to his knees remove Muramasa's hypnosis? Seeing this, the other captains realized that this was the method to eliminate Muramasa's hypnosis, and followed suit one after another. Taking advantage of his own Zanpakuto being in the dark, being suppressed by Lan Yan with one hand, unable to extricate himself, he immediately stepped forward with a knife. After a while, the huge black mist covering the entire team building of the first team evaporated, and the light near noon once again illuminated the earth. Looking at the sunshine and the Zanpakuto in their hands, many captains felt that it was dreamlike and unreal. A Zanpakuto rebellion involving all 11 court captains. It was unexpectedly suppressed by Lan Yan in less than half a minute. All the Zanpakuto who were hypnosis by Muramasa returned to the captain's hands before they could find any waves. Shang, you say that Lan Yan has neither achievements nor qualifications, you are simply stupid, aren't you yourself the best achievement of Lan Yan? Kuchiki Yinling couldn't help looking at Lan Yan, looking at this figure who suppressed a Zanpakuto rebellion with a snap of his fingers, he was both shocked and inexplicably worried. Obviously, he was worried about whether the incident of assassinating the Lan Yan brothers with Tsunayashiro Tokunada would be exposed. Although with the background of the Kuchiki family, even if they are finally discovered, they will not be afraid of Lan Yan, but for no reason, there will be another enemy, no, there will be two later. After all, Aizen is also growing rapidly, and it is enough to think about it. Especially the Shang rebellion, which means that the Kuchiki family has lost a captain-level combat force that can deter the Soul Society. Not to mention, after this battle, Gotei 13, a full 11 captains all have to accept Lan Yan's favor, even him Kuchiki Yinling himself. This means that Lan Yan is not just as simple as the captain of the 5th team, but also has become a pivotal Shinigami in Gotei 13. Even Hana Yakiryu, Jashiro Yukitaki, and Kyoraku Shunsui are all behind. Your Zanpakuto is very happy that you used her to suppress the Zanpakuto of the 11 guard captains in an instant. Let her shine in Gotei 13, and show off in front of Zenquan Zugi and Reiatsu, so I decided to tell you, she has mastered the Shikai ultimate form of the Dark Candle Shadow. On the ground and on the ground, my master floats and sinks. Following the Zanpakuto rebellion, Lan Yan suppressed him, and witnessed him use his own power to suppress the 11 court captains' Zanpakuto. Candle Yin immediately jumped out and told the corresponding to the flashing Candle Yin ultimate form, Heaven and Earth, I am the only one. Shikai ultimate form is also Shikai's strongest ability. Above and below ground, Lan Yan raised his head and glanced at the brilliant sun hanging in the sky of Seraiti. His eyes couldn't help flashing a trace of anticipation. Whether it is the strongest Shikai ability of the flashing candle, or the strongest Shikai ability of the dark candle, he has never used it. It's not that I can't use it, but that I haven't encountered an opponent that is worth using. Captain, is there really no need to issue a warrant? At this moment, Chojiro Sasaki stepped forward and asked Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni in a low voice. Since Captain Lan Yan has said so, the old man chooses to believe him and let him deal with it alone. Sinner, Shang. You don't need to issue an arrest warrant. There is no need to arraign Gote 13 either. Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni pondered for a while, and decided to follow Lan Yan's statement. In less than half a minute, Zanpakuto, who suppressed 11 court captains, wiped out a Zanpakuto rebellion that could have caused Seraiti turmoil on the spot. This answer sheet, even if it is as harsh as him, Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni thinks it is impeccable. Yes, Chojiro Sasaki nodded. After seeing Lan Yan's strength with his own eyes, he also felt that there was no need to make a fuss in the entire Seraiti just for a mere third seat in the 6th division. Because with the strength of Lan Yan alone, everything can be suppressed. Instead of spending a lot of time, it is better to entrust everything to the other party. You can go ahead without worry, Lan Yan. When you come back, Guy, I promise to return you a healthy Aizen Sosuke. Bet on the name of the captain of the 4th division. Unohana Yakiryu walked to Lan Yan, said something, then turned and walked towards Katetsu Aizen, instead of her to treat Aizen, who was seriously injured and unconscious. Thank you, sister. Lan Yan turned his head and nodded slightly towards Maojihu Abachinliu, and then he disappeared from the spot without seeing him move, but his voice still lingered in the meeting hall. So fast. Is this really Shunpo? It is not an exaggeration to say that it is Kido Forbidden Technique Space Transposition. I heard that this kind of Shunpo, Captain Lan Yan has already practiced it just by taking one Shunpo class at Spiritual Arts Academy. If Lan Yan suppressed the Zanpakuto rebellion with a flick of a finger and let the captain and deputy captain present see what absolute power is, then Shunpo, who is like a ghost in one hand, let them experience what absolute speed is. Except for a few people including Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni, even Captain Guti couldn't react in time, and couldn't keep up with this speed at all. Sokyoku off stage. The air suddenly distorted slightly, showing a blur, and then two figures appeared out of thin air like ghosts. It was Hibiki and Muramasa who made a big fuss in the Brigade Council Hall, the head guard Zanpakuto's rebellion. Snort. Just kill his younger brother, this time it's really cheap for him Lan Yan Sosuke. If it wasn't for Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni watching over him, and there are still so many captains of the court, today I will let them die together under my bankai no matter what I say. After leaving the first team, Shang still felt that it was not enough to relieve his hatred. There will be opportunities in the future. With me, there is no Shinigami in the Soul Society that can stop you from doing anything. As long as you want, I will do it for you. The village is talking inside and outside, showing the style of licking dogs. Shang he nodded in satisfaction. After deciding to defect, he only felt that he was like diving out of the abyss, breaking away from all shackles. Now, he will never be instigated by anyone again, and will never suffer any humiliation again. Why not now? Little River. Just as the pair of Shinigami and Zanpakuto took a break on Sokyoku Station and were about to find a place to settle down, 10 voices suddenly came from behind. Lan Yan. As soon as he heard this familiar voice, Shanghi's face changed, full of awe. He turned around abruptly, only to see Lan Yan standing proudly on the hillside next to Sokyoku Terrace, looking down at him condescendingly. You don't stay in the first team, how dare you come after me? Shanghi's eyes were like knives, and he poked at Lan Yan coldly. Chase you? No, it should be said that I am waiting for you. Didn't you notice? Before you came here, I was already on the Sokyoku stage, waiting for you for more than a minute. Lan Yan shook his head. Wait for me? Forget it, after all, you just died of your younger brother, so I won't care too much about you. What? Seeing Aizen die in front of me, but helpless, very uncomfortable. So you came to me in such a hurry, because you missed your brother? If yes, I can be a good person and send you to see him for free. Shanghi sneered, he didn't believe Lan Yan could have such a shunpo at all. You keep mentioning Aizen, are you thinking about him? Lan Yan laughed instead of being angry when he heard this. Yeah, I kind of miss Aizen. When I was in the first team, I let him die too easily. Should have wrung his head off with my own hands. Seeing that Lan Yan's expression remained unchanged, Shang continued to use Aizen's death to provoke him. He just wanted to see Lan Yan in pain, anger, but powerless. Since you want to see Aizen so much, why don't you turn your head and look behind you? As Lan Yan said, he stretched out his hand and pointed behind Shang. What's behind me? Is it your Aizen's wrong soul or something? There is no Reiatsu at all. Lan Yan, I didn't expect you to play such a 3-year-old trick with me. Shanghai's eyes narrowed slightly, but Reiatsu's perception spread out, and he didn't perceive Reiatsu from behind. He thought that Lan Yan wanted to distract himself, and then took the opportunity to launch an attack. There's none. However, I have already seen him bypassing you and standing directly opposite you. What is that? The corners of Lan Yan's mouth were lightly raised, and when he looked at Shang, it was as if he was watching a clown performance. I think you are dead, brother. Are you overly sad? It doesn't matter. I'm sending you down to reunite with Aizen. Shang he kept staring at Lan Yan, afraid that he would take the opportunity to approach him. Before, even Muramasa was suppressed in the first team, unable to use the abilities of Shikai and Bankai, but he still remembers it vividly. You keep mentioning my name all the time, do you miss me that much? Shang 3 seats. No, you should be called a sinner ringing the river. Lan Yan smiled and said nothing, but a familiar voice rang in Shang He's ear. What, Aizen? When Shang He heard this, his expression changed suddenly. How could he forget this voice? It was the blue algae who took the position of captain of the special forces of his first team not long ago. It can't be him. Kyoga, I just hypnosis Kyoka Suigetsu, kill him. Even if you're lucky and you get a life back, you should be in the 4th team to save it. Muramasa immediately denied it. It's just a mere deputy captain Shinigami, in front of him under Bankai, he's just an ant. Kyoka Suigetsu is just his plaything. When did you have the illusion that Aizen was killed by you? Lan Yan couldn't help laughing when he heard this. Shatter, Kyoka Suigetsu. Just as Shang He was about to say something, a slightly magnetic and charming voice suddenly sounded. Immediately afterwards, in front of his line of sight, the air exploded like a cracked mirror. Next second, holding a knife in one hand, Aizen appeared right in front of him. Aizen, how is it possible that you are here intact? Seeing this familiar figure, Shang He couldn't help but change his expression in horror. It should be said that I have always been by your side and never left. Aizen corrected Hibiki's words. Impossible, absolutely impossible. You are obviously dead. And Kyoka Suigetsu. I also obviously hypnosis him. Muramasa couldn't believe it either. Then I'll ask you again, when did you have the illusion that Kyoka Suigetsu was sleeping with you? Of course, and you too, Shang. Seeing that both Shang and Muramasa were having trouble accepting the fact, Aizen also laughed. Impossible. How could such a thing happen? Shang He involuntarily took a few steps back. The scene in front of him made him feel unimaginable and incomprehensible, but the fact told him faintly that he seemed to have fallen into the mercy of the Lan Yan brothers, like a puppet on a string, dominating and playing at will. The emergence of this idea made his heart immediately shrouded in strong anxiety. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.